Chapter 729. On the surface, Victoria's return had been disrespectful to the emperor, so the three vassal states divided it up for the sake of the emperor. The emperor didn't receive much benefit from this. Even if he did, it would only be a small amount of gold that the three vassal states specially plundered from the treasury to compensate for the emperor's grievances. But from the emperor's point of view, this was the beginning of the warring states. Starting from the day Victoria's return was destroyed, all the major vassal kingdoms would set their sights on the smaller vassal kingdoms, looking for an excuse to swallow them up. From then on, the smaller vassal states wouldn't be able to eat or sleep at night in order to prevent this from happening. When the balance was broken, it would inevitably lead to chaos. But what made the emperor even happier was that no matter how everyone fought, they had to raise the emperor's name. As long as his territory didn't expand, the eyes of all parties wouldn't be focused on him. But when everyone fought, in order to raise the emperor's name, they would inevitably pay a certain amount of tribute in exchange for his support or silence. The emperor's strength would grow day by day, while the vassal states would consume their own strength in the chaos. Of course, more importantly, everyone raised the emperor's name, so his reputation among the people would be unprecedentedly high. If everyone fought fiercely, today it would belong to country A, tomorrow it would belong to country B, and the day after tomorrow it would belong to country C. Even the people wouldn't know which country they belonged to. In the end, everyone would only have one concept. They were the emperor's people. At that time, as long as the emperor waited for the right time, he would raise his arm and unify the world would be just around the corner. This was also why the emperor was always happy. Judging from the results of this war, the damage to the ordinary people wasn't great, and the damage to the ordinary army wasn't great either. Most of the battles were between experts. The decisive battles still took place in Victoria's Return Palace and the Royal Palace. If that was the case, the emperor actually hoped that there would be more wars like this. The more people from the major clans died, the better. The representatives of the 5 vassal states who didn't give the emperor any face were summoned back by their respective vassal states. In their place were 5 older and prudent people who were very respectful when they met the emperor. Tianzi was very clear that they still looked down on him in their hearts. But as long as they could be respectful on the surface, it was already a qualitative leap. Now, the emperor was waiting for the promised gold coins from the 3 kingdoms to come to his door in exchange for the duke's edict that he had long prepared. At the same time, there were also the rewards of the earls and viscounts. When the 3 countries obtained these, it would be the beginning of them breaking up their own powerful countries. In the beginning, it was only a small count and viscount. Slowly, when the great vassal states' meritorious officials wanted a marquis, it would be fun to watch. The Son of Heaven did not forget how the situation in front of him came about. It could be said that from the beginning of the ceremony of the feudal vassals to the current war of annihilation, it was all thanks to Wang Sheng. Now, Tianzi had learned his lesson. Not only did he not forget to help Wang Sheng obtain benefits from the 3 countries, he also firmly remembered that no matter what happened, he would decisively stand on Wang Sheng's side, lest Wang Sheng had any dissatisfaction. If Wang Sheng could make Tianzi stand above everyone, he could also easily pull Tianzi down from the altar. This, the Son of Heaven had no doubt. Old Li, what is the Marquis busy with recently? Feeling good, the Son of Heaven remembered to ask about Wang Sheng's recent whereabouts. Previously, he was worried about the war of annihilation, so how could he pay attention to the things under his eyes? The Marquis bought a large piece of land opposite the Runzi workshop and is demolishing the house. He said that he intends to build a grand theater there. Manager Li quickly replied. Seeing the Son of Heaven's good face and good mood, he added, "It is done in the name of your majesty, and the cost is advanced gold coins. It is said that after the completion, it will be deducted from your majesty's dividend." This was promised by the Son of Heaven. The construction of the Royal Grand Theater was taken care of by the Son of Heaven, so naturally, the cost was paid by the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven nodded and did not say anything. At least, he did not show any dissatisfaction. There would be 1 billion gold coins coming into his account soon, so why would he care about the cost of a mere theater? The cost of the Marquis land is almost 50% higher than the ordinary land price. Since the Son of Heaven was not unhappy, Manager Lee said a little more. According to the Marquis, the extra is to compensate those who sold the land. It is to compensate them for the loss of being unable to find a place to live for a period of time. It is done in the name of your majesty. So after the people in the capital heard about it, everyone praised your majesty's benevolence and righteousness. Wang Sheng's way of doing things was really reassuring. A simple action could buy the hearts of the people. In the future, as long as the Marquis does not intend to rebel, he can do whatever he wants. The Son of Heaven immediately said. As soon as the order came out, even Manager Lee was shocked. This was an unprecedented favor. However, Manager Lee was not stupid enough to oppose the Son of Heaven. He quickly agreed and then slowly followed the Son of Heaven to the harem to find the Empress to share some happiness. During this time, Wang Sheng and more than a dozen great grandmasters, especially Master Lu, studied the style of the Grand Theater for a long time. Such a big building, everyone had no idea at first. Even Master Lu was not sure. Later, it was Wang Sheng who had no choice but to propose two proposals for everyone to choose. On Earth, Wang Sheng had seen a Chinese-style Grand Theater. One was the Shangxi Grand Theater, and the other was the Dunhuang Grand Theater. They were both traditional Chinese style with flying eaves and a square form. However, the Dunhuang Grand Theater was relatively simple, while the multi-purpose hall of the Shangxi Grand Theater was more complicated. According to Wang Sheng's sketch, Master Lu and the two carpenters first used wood to make two miniaturized architectural models. They made the exteriors of the two theaters. Then, everyone began to study the two architectural models. Master Yu and a group of musicians were also invited to the scene. Everyone was very satisfied with the two theater models, and there was no constructive opinion at all. Mayor also looked at it, and she also had difficulty choosing. She could not give up on one. In the end, it was still Wang Sheng who made the decision. According to the construction difficulty, Wang Sheng chose the Dunhuang Grand Theater. It was a square building with a simple structure and a single function. It did not need to be divided into multiple halls, and the construction difficulty was relatively lower. After choosing the appearance, Master Lu first combined with Master Yu and a few array masters to study the sound effects. Wang Sheng thought it would be very troublesome to study the sound wave transmission and reverberation, but it was easily solved by Master Yu and a few array masters. No matter where it was, it could ensure that the audience could hear the best sound effects. After this was completed, it was the structural design, which was completely different from Wang Sheng's process on Earth. Wang Sheng could only follow Master Lu's steps. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Chapter 730. The normal process would be to first design the structure and then design the function after ensuring the stability and safety of the structure. However, the source spirit world had powerful demonic beast materials and various kinds of arrays. The structure was not a big problem, and the function could be designed first. There was no need for Wang Sheng to worry about the construction. With the drawings, the model, and the beam design that had already been arranged according to the model, Master Lu and the other grandmasters could take care of it all. The only thing Wang Sheng needed to do was to take out enough gold coins, and the rest would be taken care of by others. On the other hand, Master Yu had a lot of requests. The royal zither players had invited many familiar zither players, and Master Yu had also invited a group of them through his own connections. There were also two young people who had dabbled in various musical instruments to be trained to be conductors. The band immediately had more than 60 people. They were all relatively high-level zither players. The worst one was only slightly worse than the royal zither players at the beginning. With Master Yu and Wang Sheng's guidance, in just a short half a month, every zither player's level had increased very quickly. According to Wang Sheng's request, there were a few people for each musical instrument. For the eru and other musical instruments, there were 7 or 8 people. Under Master Yu's direction, they played at the same time. Master Yu immediately felt the difference from when there was only one zither player for each musical instrument. The timbre was not as thin as before. There was a lot more reverberation, and it was much more solid. Now that Master Yu saw that the construction of the theater had begun, he could not help but ask Wang Sheng for songs, especially when he knew that the first performance after the construction of the theater was completed was for the emperor and the empress. The quality of the performance was related to whether the emperor would treat the musicians and zither players as artists, so he was even more cautious. Master Yu had adapted a few of this world's famous ancient songs, but he still needed Wang Sheng to bring out a few new songs first. In terms of adaptation, Master Yu was still a bit rusty and could not compare playing, so he could only ask Wang Sheng to do it. Wang Sheng also knew Master Yu's mood. After careful consideration, he took out 3 songs: Horse Race, Spring River, Moonlit Night, and Love of the Butterfly. 1 eru, 1 zither and pipa, and 1 piano, but they were all songs that could be played with the orchestra. Adding Butterfly Lovers, Heart Cleansing, Kindness Incantation, Pipa Music, and Ambush from 10 Sides, there were 7 songs. Master Yu had also adapted 5, so there were a total of 12 songs. It was enough for a performance. It was not that Wang Sheng did not want to take out more piano songs. It was because Wang Sheng was very familiar with Wang Sheng. There were not many China styles, so Wang Sheng was worried that Master Yu and the others would not be able to accept. Even if Master Yu, who loved music, could accept it, could the audience accept it? This needed to be a gradual process. Let's wait until everyone was familiar with the piano's tone first. In addition, using an eru or a huqin to replace a violin was still a little awkward. Wang Sheng decided to draw a picture of a violin, viola, and cello for Master Yu. He also described how to play them. As for how to tune the strings and how to play them, it was better to let Master Yu figure it out himself. It was the same for the trumpet and trumpet. Draw it out and figure out yourself. Master Yu invited another musical instrument maker who did not live in Beijing. After receiving Master Yu's message, he rushed over. He was shocked when he saw the piano and heard the range of the piano's tone. Now that Wang Sheng had brought out 3 types of violins and various instruments, the 2 old men were immediately engrossed in them. It was not hard to imagine that for a long time, Master Yu and the group of grandmasters would have things to do. Wang Sheng only needed to go over and enjoy the music for some time. Even if Master Lu was in charge of the construction of this big theater, a group of ordinary craftsmen and some carpentry and masonry grandmasters were needed to help. Regarding this, the Son of Heaven waved his hand and allowed them to use whatever they needed. Compared to the big event of dividing up Victorious Return, what could Wang Sheng do by building a big theater? It couldn't be any smaller. The War of Annihilation happened very quickly. Half a month's time was equivalent to a normal person walking from the border of Victorious Return to the capital. During this time, there were several major battles. The most tragic one was the Battle of Victorious Return, which ended with the Palace Lord's death. Although the war ended quickly, it wasn't the end. The division of the spoils was where the 3 powers quarreled the most. Taking advantage of Victorious Return's geographical location, the Tang clan unhesitatingly took over a large piece of land near the Tang Empire. Unwilling to fall behind, the state of Xia and the state of Feng launched an arduous negotiation with the Tang Empire. According to the degree of barrenness of the land, population distribution, and output, they had to fight for a bit more for themselves. Although there were already some principles of distribution before the war, with such a large territory, how could it be evenly distributed? It was normal for one country to have more and another to have less. In addition, the mercenary fees of the other 5 countries had to be paid by the 3 countries. Fortunately, when facing the other 5 countries, the 3 countries were united. First, they settled the fees from Victorious Return's treasury, then drove all the experts of the other 5 countries out of Victorious Return. No, it was no longer called Victorious Return, but the territory of the Tang Empire, Xia, and Feng kingdoms. Apart from the territory, population, and various other treasures, Victorious Return's true wealth was the inheritance of the Victorious Return Palace. Cultivation techniques, pill recipes, secret arts, formations, and so on. All of these ancient records, which the Victorious Return Palace treated as their most precious treasures, had been moved to the royal palace in the capital city of Victorious Return. who would be willing to destroy the blood, sweat, and tears of their ancestors over hundreds, thousands, or even longer. As a result, these ancient records were originally taken away by several experts from Victoria's return and passed on incognito. However, when they were discovered by the Three Kingdoms, none of these experts were able to escape. All of the ancient records were wiped out by the Three Kingdoms in one fell swoop. In this regard, everyone argued fiercely. Everyone wanted it. In the end, the three countries came to an agreement. All the inheritance of the Victorious Return Palace would be divided into three parts, one for each country. Following that, the territory, population, and so on were also divided amidst the arguments. With such a large territory, it was impossible to divide it evenly. Eventually, the result was that whoever took more would have to pay the Son of Heaven and Marquis everlasting victory's share. After arguing for almost a month, the three countries finally came to an agreement. The duration of the argument was longer than the duration of the war. The Tang Empire easily expanded its territory, while Xia and Feng kingdoms each obtained an enclave. However, the two countries handled it differently. Chapter 731. All three countries knew that the Emperor of Heaven had prepared 3 imperial edicts for each country. One was to confer the title of Duke, the second was to confer the title of Count, and the third was to confer the title of Viscount. Apart from the first, the names on the other two were blank, as were the names of the lands. However, even though they were blank, there was a restriction. The two names had to be from their respective vassal states, and the lands had to be the territory of their respective vassal states. It was up to the king to decide whether or not to issue these 2 edicts, as well as who to issue them to. The state of Xia planned to establish a vassal state in this enclave. The ruler would be one of their elders, who would be conferred the title of Count, and this enclave would be their territory. As for how the other Viscount would be dealt with, no one knew. The state of Feng, on the other hand, intended to use this enclave to exchange it with the neighboring state of Shi for a piece of land that could be connected to the state of Feng. As for how the land would be exchanged and how it would be distributed, it would be up to the states of Feng and Shi to negotiate. Each of them had different methods of dealing with their territories, but this didn't prevent them from opening their bloody mouths and dismembering Victoria's return. In any case, the benefits were already firmly in the stomachs of the three countries. Next was the payment to the Emperor of Heaven and Wang Sheng. The Emperor of Heaven's payment had long since been clearly stated on the edicts. It was a total of 1 billion gold coins, which could be paid in goods or in cash. What else was there to say? The three countries began to fork out the gold coins according to the ratio they had agreed upon. They had no choice but to fork out the gold coins. If the three countries dared to play tricks today, the Emperor of Heaven would tell the other 5 countries that they were disrespecting him. Victorious Return's mistakes weren't too far off. The other 5 countries were eyeing the 3 countries covetously. None of them wanted to follow in Victorious Return's footsteps. However, when it came to compensating Wang Sheng, everyone was in a bit of a dilemma. What should they give to Wang Sheng? How could they exchange it for gold? However, everyone knew that Wang Sheng truly didn't lack gold. Giving him gold coins would be a bit insincere. This time, Wang Sheng was the primer that allowed everyone to act without worry. Moreover, the matters and the grounds of Thousand Despair in the future still required Wang Sheng's approval. They couldn't afford to make Wang Sheng unhappy. However, no one was willing to give away anything else, especially the inheritance of Victoria's palace. That was something that should be left behind for the younger generation. How could they so easily reveal it to Wang Sheng? On the other hand, someone suggested an idea for everyone to consider, giving everyone a direction. The direction of reference was still the worry-free city. Elder Sister Rosa was a member of Carefree City's Assassin Hall who specialized in serving Wang Sheng. At the same time, Elder Sister Rosa was also a chess piece that Victoria's Palace had planted in Carefree City. The last few times Victoria's Palace had cooperated with Wang Sheng, it was all because of Elder Sister Rosa. This time, Elder Sister Rosa had targeted Wang Sheng's businesses, but after being counterattacked by Wang Sheng, Elder Sister Rosa had decisively thrown herself to Wang Sheng's side. Without the slightest hesitation, she informed Wang Sheng that Victoria's Palace had dispatched a law enforcement disciple. To Victoria's Palace, elder sister Rosa's actions were 100% betrayal. But to Wang Sheng, this was a favor, a kindness. Therefore, as soon as something happened in Victoria's Palace, Wang Sheng informed Carefree City to bring elder sister Rosa to Wang Sheng's mansion for protection. Since elder sister Rosa was helping Wang Sheng would definitely protect her life. Of course, elder sister Rosa had spies from various countries in Carefree City. After seeing this situation, they no longer continued to pursue elder sister Rosa. In any case, elder sister Rosa was only one person, and her cultivation wasn't high enough to pose a threat to the three countries. Moreover, she could happily sell a favor to Wang Sheng, so why not? However, this also gave the higher-ups of Xia a hint. It must be known that, from the time all parties knew about Wang Sheng until now, in the past few years, only Xia had successfully pushed Aki, this female assassin, to Wang Sheng's side. The other exception was the female shopkeeper of Baoqing Yutang, Mayer. Strictly speaking, the only woman who could make Wang Sheng take the initiative to take in was elder sister Rosa. Elder sister Rosa's age wasn't very old. She was in her early 30s, a middle-aged woman at the age of maturity. Moreover, elder sister Rosa's appearance wasn't bad. In fact, her looks were above average. However, because she usually served in the Assassin's Hall, she had developed a shrewd and slick way of doing things, which gave her a different kind of charm. Could it be that Wang Sheng didn't particularly like inexperienced chicks like Aki, but instead liked mature women like elder sister Rosa? Whatever, as long as Wang Sheng liked them, it didn't matter what style they had. In any case, after destroying Victoria's Return, they had captured quite a few female disciples for Victoria's Return Palace. Not to mention the harem of the ruler of Victoria's Return, as well as the family members of the upper echelon. Each and every one of them was a rare beauty. Some were young, some were mature, and some were young. There were almost all kinds of possibilities. Leaving these women alive was also a disaster. Killing them would be too much of a pity. Originally, the three countries planned to do a human trafficking business. After all, these women all had a certain level of cultivation, and there was no lack of experts among them. If they were sold as guards, it would be a huge profit. Since it would be difficult to compensate Wang Sheng, why not just send these women over? As long as Wang Sheng liked one or two of them, the three countries would make a huge profit. After receiving the proposal from the king, the representative of Xia immediately discussed it with the representatives of Tang Empire and Feng State. When Tang Empire and Feng State heard this, they couldn't help but think, what's wrong with this? Isn't it just a bunch of women? In any case, they were going to be exchanged for gold coins anyway. Rather than giving them gold coins in the end, they might as well send these women over to Wang Sheng. Just as Xia said, as long as Wang Sheng took a fancy to one or two of them, wouldn't he have to remember the favor of the three countries? The three sides hit it off and immediately settled the matter. In order to prevent any accidents from happening, they immediately sent people to escort this group of nearly 600 women to the capital together with the gold coins for the Son of Heaven. This way, the Son of Heaven got the gold coins he wanted, Wang Sheng got a group of female experts, and the three countries got the vast majority of the benefits of Victoria's Return. Even the other 5 countries got some soup and water. The cost of hiring experts also made a small profit. Overall, it seemed like a happy situation. The news reached the capital and reached the ears of the Son of Heaven. When he received the news, the Son of Heaven was both happy and angry. He was happy because not only did he get a large amount of gold coins, but he also sowed the seeds of future victories. He was angry because what did Tang Empire and Feng State want to do? What do they want? What do they want? The Son of Heaven was simply unable to restrain his anger. He was just sharing his happiness with the Empress when he suddenly heard this news. He immediately flew into a rage. What do they want to do by sending so many women? Compete for favor with Maya? Also, what's going on with that Rosa from Carefree City? There's already a long-legged female assassin, and now there's another Rosa. Why isn't anyone killing her? Your Majesty, don't worry. Compared to the son of heaven, the empress was a lot calmer. Even if they put 10,000 women around Changxing-ho, can any of them compete with Mayer? Chapter 732. The furious emperor could only calm down quickly in front of the empress. When Chief Steward Li sent the news, he already knew this, so he reported it when the empress was present. Sure enough, the emperor quickly calmed down. After drinking 2 cups of wine, he asked the empress, "That brat hasn't touched Mayer yet. If someone else takes advantage of her, what will happen to Mayer?" "Your Majesty, isn't Mayer beautiful?" the empress asked with a smile. "Of course, Mayer is beautiful," the emperor said without hesitation. "Her beauty is rare in the world." "Then Mayer isn't charming?" the empress asked again. "How is that possible?" the emperor quickly replied, "Mayer is a natural beauty. In this world, except for you, who can be more charming than Mayer?" Mayer is intimate with Marquis Changsheng every day, but Marquis Changsheng can resist not touching Mayer. The empress smiled and asked, "Does your Majesty think that any random woman can move Marquis Changsheng's heart? But isn't that brat still raising a child in Carefree City? A few days ago, he even sent a middle-aged Rosa." This was what the emperor was unhappy about. Who knows if this brat will abandon Mayer? "Your Majesty, have you forgotten the news sent by the shadow in Carefree City?" the empress reminded. "Chief Steward Li, didn't the shadow say that according to the results of his observation using the palace's secret method, that long-legged female killer is still a virgin?" When the empress asked, Chief Steward Li didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly bowed and said, replying to the empress, "There is such a thing." The empress looked at the emperor and didn't say anything, as if waiting for him to be reassured. Maybe it's really like what those few families have guessed. Maybe this brat likes older and more mature women. The emperor also knew that he was a little anxious, but he still said it stubbornly. Then he felt that his words really couldn't stand up to scrutiny and couldn't help but laugh. When the emperor smiled, Manager Li's heart immediately calmed down. "Forget it. You should spend more time with Mayer and teach Mayer more tricks." The emperor returned to his seat beside the empress. "Let him tie that brat tightly. No one can take him away. That's not up to Mayer." The empress smiled as well. Her body isn't something that just anyone can endure. Wang Sheng is also an idiot. The emperor couldn't help but complain again. "I've already given him the mind-guarding technique for such a long time. Could it be that he still hasn't cultivated it?" "Your Majesty, how many years did you use to cultivate the mind of calmness?" The empress laughed again. "Changxing-ho has only obtained it for less than 3 months. How far can he cultivate? If you're worried, you should be more worried about those female disciples of Triumph Palace. When they arrive at Changsheng-ho's mansion, they might take the opportunity to assassinate Changsheng-ho and Mayer for revenge." The empress's worries were not without reason. These female experts all came from Triumph Palace. There were female disciples, the harem of Victoria's Palace, and the family members of the upper echelons. It could be said that each of them had a deep relationship with Triumph Palace. Victoria's return was destroyed. In one night, they went from high and mighty to female slaves. It would be strange if they could accept it calmly. Although Triumph Palace was directly destroyed by Tang, Xia, and Feng, the real root cause was actually because Victoria's return made a move on Wang Sheng and the Emperor's moisturizing workshop. If they really wanted to pursue this matter, it would be a blood feud. It was impossible for them to listen to Wang Sheng's commands and arrangements with peace of mind. Although the 3 countries catered to Wang Sheng's liking by sending beautiful women over, it was not necessarily without the intention of sending a lot of trouble to Wang Sheng. If Wang Sheng and Mayer didn't handle it well, these female experts would become a big problem. What are they trying to do? The emperor received the news. It didn't take long for Wang Sheng to also receive the news. Wang Sheng was directly stunned. Wang Sheng believed that the 3 countries must have sent over beautiful women. However, why did Wang Sheng need so many beautiful women? He hadn't even seen the face of the girl in his dreams, and he still had Mayer by his side. Carefree City had Aki, Song Yin from Song Kingdom, and countless beauties from Duke's mansion were willing to serve Wang Sheng. Why did he need so many beautiful women? Moreover, they were beautiful women with a grudge against him. Do you want me to accept them first, then slowly sell them out? Mayer was very satisfied with Wang Sheng's current state. She stepped forward to help out, beautiful guards and experts at that. There are many places where people want them. Is moisturizing workshop lacking people? Wang Sheng pondered for a moment, then asked Mer. Yes. Speaking of moisturizing workshop, Mayer immediately revealed a bitter expression. Moisturizing workshop's current business intensity was not just an ordinary lack of manpower. Female experts were few and far between, and moisturizing workshop only allowed women to enter. Mayer had almost sent all of her personal guards to moisturizing workshop. But this was not enough. She worried every day. Then when this batch of people arrives, carefully screen them and send those who can be used to moisturizing workshop. Wang Sheng thought for a moment, then arranged. If they can't be used, then we'll think of another way. If they can't be used, then we'll do as you say. In fact, Wang Sheng didn't like the feeling of treating women as goods, but this was the real world. Wang Sheng alone couldn't change anything, and he didn't want to change anything. Some rules could only be adapted and not forcibly changed. As for the so-called revolution, please, Wang Sheng didn't come to this world to liberate the masses. I'm just afraid that they might look docile on the surface, but who knows when they'll casually attack, injuring them to the point where they can't bear it. Mayer was still smiling bitterly. Moisturizing workshop was indeed lacking manpower, but to settle these beautiful enemies, Mayer wasn't the only one who had to worry. Even if they do, how can these female experts guarantee their loyalty to their new master? Wang Sheng didn't understand and asked, are people not afraid of these experts giving them a fatal blow at any time if they buy them? There are a few ways to control them. Mayer seemed to be very familiar with this and quickly replied, either drug control or abolish their cultivation. If they don't want to die, they have to be obedient. It's a pity to abolish their cultivation. Wang Sheng shook his head and asked, is there a simpler way? There is. Mayer quickly replied, take her, be her man. If she doesn't turn hostile and chop you up afterwards, it's basically the same. Speaking of this, Mayer rolled her big eyes and said very mischievously, how about Marquis? You take them all? Maybe they'll all be obedient. I'm not an animal. Wang Sheng directly pulled a long face. He knew that Mayer was joking, but Wang Sheng didn't think this joke was funny. What he was thinking now was how not to waste these female experts and not cause them to take revenge. Chapter 733. I'm afraid this matter will fall on Sister Rosa's head. Wang Sheng pondered for a while and finally found a bridge that could communicate between the two sides. The original disciple of Triumph Palace, Sister Rosa, sent a letter to Carefree City and asked Sister Rosa to come to the capital immediately. Wang Sheng ordered Mayer. Now Aki and Mayer in Carefree City seemed to have a dedicated communication bird, so Mayer could arrange it as soon as possible. Mayer agreed and quickly went to arrange it. This was a serious matter, not a time for Mayer to be jealous. The three countries would probably take more than half a month to send people from Triumph Palace. Wang Sheng still had enough time to wait for Sister Rosa to rush over to discuss countermeasures. While all sides were busy, Wang Sheng finally had some time to think about his cultivation method and which transformation of the 9 sons of the dragon he wanted to complete. He had completed the Qi Kiss transformation, Tao Tai transformation, Swanee transformation, Pu Lao transformation, Swanee transformation, Xion Yo transformation. Speaking of which, Wang Sheng was now at the 7th stage of cultivation. Wang Sheng had already begun to cultivate the pure tranquility cultivation method. The little person with combat consciousness was deducing the plan to cultivate both the pure tranquility cultivation method and the pure tranquility cultivation method at the same time, and it was already at the end. Seeing that Wang Sheng could cultivate it, Wang Sheng was also very looking forward to it. Just as Wang Sheng was waiting for the cultivation method deduction to be completed, waiting for Sister Rosa to rush from Carefree City to the capital, the Imperial Treasury, which had been quiet recently, responded. Wen and Ling came to the capital together to visit Wang Sheng's residence. It was rare for Marquis Wen to come to the capital. Wang Sheng instructed Steward Wang to use the grandest attitude to welcome the two distinguished guests. He also pulled Mei along to receive Marquis Wen and Ling. Just such a small thing made Mei happy for a few days. Last time in Tongxing City, Wang Sheng promised Wen that he could cooperate with the Imperial Treasure House on a business. At that time, the Imperial Treasure House postponed the cooperation on the grounds that they had not thought it through. This time, Wen came for this matter. Master Liu, what business do you want to do? After 3 rounds of wine and 5 different dishes, Wang Sheng asked Wen. The food here is really delicious. Wen praised and nodded. I've thought about it. Why? Are you planning to open a restaurant? Wen kept praising Wang Sheng's chefs and dishes. Wang Sheng thought that Wen was really interested in cooking, so he couldn't help but ask with a smile. No, but it's somewhat similar. Wen smiled and said, wine and dishes. Now there are delicious dishes, but it seems that there is no top-grade wine. In the end, it's a bit unsuitable. Does Master Ho have any way? The Imperial Treasure House actually wanted to do a wine business. Wang Sheng couldn't help but look at Wen and his think tank with admiration. It had to be said that Wen had really found a good way to make money. With the taste of the so-called best wine that Wang Sheng had tasted in this world, Wang Sheng could casually make a wine that was 8 streets better than theirs. Wine, if it was really a business, it would simply be a windfall. There was no lack of food to worry about in this world. There was plenty of food to make wine. Even compared to the current price of the best wine, making wine was a profitable business. Not to mention that Wang Sheng had the confidence to make wine several times better than the good wine in the capital. At that time, wouldn't the price soar? Have you thought about it? Wang Sheng asked with a smile to be safe. I've thought about it for a long time. The one who replied was Wenho's favorite, the eldest Mississippi. She had always been unconvinced by Wang Sheng. Of course, it was not in terms of cultivation, but in terms of knowledge. Even now, she was still the same. I've flipped through all the records on winemaking, and there's no better way to make wine than this. Do you really think you can make wine better than this? Wang Sheng entertained Wenho with the best wine in the capital, known as Ten Li Xiang. However, in Wang Sheng's view, this Ten Li Xiang was a bit unworthy of its name. First, the degree was not high enough, and it was slightly bland. Second, there were some subtle deposits in the wine. The wine was cloudy, and the appearance was not good enough. On Earth, if someone dared to sell wine of this quality, they would either change their name to fermented rice or not sell it. If someone really dared to sell wine, they would definitely be beaten by the customers and scolded as black-hearted merchants. If you think about it, then let's cooperate. Wang Sheng smiled in response to Miss Ling's rudeness. His confident smile made Miss Ling clench her teeth and lose her temper. However, aren't you afraid of earning gold coins and then being robbed by the vassal states in the name of the official camp? Wang Sheng asked. Wenho suddenly laughed. The fact that Wang Sheng dared to ask this question showed that he had enough confidence to make this business similar to the salt and sugar business. Otherwise, how could the vassal states be tempted by it? Without great benefits, who would be willing to provoke a behemoth like the Imperial Treasure House or Baoqing Yutang? Although the vassal states divided the salt and sugar business of Baoqing Yutang, they did not come without paying a price. For a period of time, prices soared everywhere, almost to the point where people had no way to make a living. In the end, the vassal states took a small step back and gave some rewards to Baoqing Yutang and promised Baoqing Yutang a permanent 5% reduction in taxes. Only then did the dispute settle. Although Baoqing Yutang suffered a great loss, it took at least half a year for the vassal states to reopen the salt and sugar business. During this period, there were assassinations, injuries, and even deaths. The killers of Worry-Free City and Godly Might Prison earned an unknown amount of gold coins. Naturally, many of Baoqing Yutang's people died. In the end, the two sides finally reached an agreement. Wang Sheng did not know the details of the imperial treasure house, but Wang Sheng believed that it would not be worse than Baoqin Yutang's. Salt and sugar are goods related to the people's livelihood, so it makes sense for the official camp. LV Wenho replied with a smile. But this wine is by no means a necessity for the people's livelihood. Isn't it too unreasonable to want the official camp? If it's reasonable, can they give the salt and sugar to the official camp? Wang Sheng also laughed. This was also a test for LV Wenho. If he could not keep his own business, why would Wang Sheng take it out for others to make money? There are ways to be unreasonable. LV Wenho was still smiling. In the past few years, the Imperial Treasure House has also cultivated a few legendary peak experts. I'm afraid this is not enough. Wang Sheng shook his head directly. I'm afraid there will be more experts in the future. The experts of the Imperial Treasure House cannot compete with a number of others. So I plan to do this business with a worry-free city lord. LV Wenho finally said his ultimate insurance. I just don't know if Marquis is willing to give up a little bit of your share. With the three of us working together, if anyone wants to take over the official camp, I'm afraid they will have to think carefully, right? Chapter 734. Worry-free city might not have many things, but it was never short of assassins. In the past, old Taoist Ling Su concealed his identity and became a red-card assassin of Worry-free City. It could be said that the hidden power of Worry-free City was something that even the major vassal states did not dare to underestimate. Of course, there was no problem doing this business with the Lord of Worry-free City. Whoever dared to have any ideas about the Lord of Worry-free City would probably end up the same as Triumph Palace's idea of Wang Sheng's industry. With a strong enough backing, let alone a profitable business, even if it was directly robbing gold, no one would object. Wang Sheng nodded while secretly pondering. The pavilion of Linglong collected 1/10 of the world's gold coins, but the various states did not have the slightest dissatisfaction. Was it really because they had mastered the core technology? How should we divide the shares between us? Since he had promised to do business with the Lord of Worry-free City, Wang Sheng also wanted to ask clearly how the three parties would divide the shares. Marquis, you use your brewing technology to buy shares, 30%. The city lord will provide protection, 30%. LV Wenho had already thought about this question and immediately replied. Imperial Treasure House is responsible for raw material supply, production, transportation, sales, and all other chores, 40%. How about it? I have no problem with it. As long as the city lord has no objection, we will do it according to this. Wang Sheng did not feel that he was suffering a loss for only taking 30%. It was not a problem for Imperial Treasure House to take 10% more. In the end, he only needed to say a few words. The real work was Imperial Treasure House. Later, I will personally go to discuss with the city lord. LV Wenho showed an expression of I knew it and agreed. If the city lord is not satisfied, I will give up a part of Imperial Treasure House. This was a matter for LV Wenho and the city lord to discuss. Wang Sheng did not need to worry about it. Anyway, Wang Sheng did not intend to do it himself. He was already very satisfied with 1/3 of the income. I have a question I want to ask. After reaching an agreement, both sides were very happy, and the atmosphere became more harmonious. Taking advantage of this occasion, Wang Sheng also took the opportunity to ask LV Wenho a question. Please speak. LV Wenho always maintained a calm and elegant demeanor. He extended his hand and gestured for them to begin, then waited to listen. Wang Sheng didn't treat LV Wenho as someone he needed to be wary of. He directly told him about how the three countries were going to gift him hundreds of beautiful female experts, and then expressed his worries. Finally, he asked, how should I deal with so many experts? If we keep them, how can we make them willingly and not deliberately seek revenge? As soon as the question was asked, LV Wenho's expression did not change. Just as he was about to say something, Linger could not help but burst out laughing. If it was any other subordinate of LV Wenho's first reaction would have been to reprimand them. Wang Sheng was asking him, but before he could say anything, his subordinate actually laughed. How could this be? But if it was Ling, then there were no taboos. Ling could do whatever she wanted. Feeling that she had finally suppressed Wang Sheng in some way, Miss Ling was very proud. Leaning against LV Wenho, she happily raised her head like a proud peacock. Ling's pride made Mei very dissatisfied. She couldn't help but coldly snort in her heart. The two women's eyes met, and they immediately felt an invisible flame spreading. Wang Sheng and LV Wenho didn't seem to feel this flame. The two were still calmly drinking. LV Wenho even reminded her affectionately, Ling knows a little, so tell Master Marquis about it. Do you really think that Victor Palace originally had so many female experts? Ling had the opportunity to ridicule Wang Sheng. She immediately said to Wang Sheng without any trace of politeness, Didn't you say that you have a female disciple of Victor Palace here? You can ask her if it's like this. In fact, this one sentence was enough to make Wang Sheng and Mei feel less worried. If these hundreds of beautiful female experts weren't originally part of Victoria's Return Palace, and had instead been coerced or enticed by Victoria's Return Palace through various methods, why would Wang Sheng need to worry about them retaliating against him for the sake of Victoria's Return Palace? After all, Victor Palace used to be a secluded sect. How could it possibly have such a large population? These experts might have only joined because they were within the borders of Victoria's Return. Take Wang Sheng, for example. If the imperial family were to be destroyed at this time, would Wang Sheng avenge the Son of Heaven just because he was in Victoria's Return? In this way, a large portion of the population could be eliminated. The only ones left were the harem of Victoria's Return's emperor and the families of some important ministers. However, everyone knew that in this world, there were some things that had to be done thoroughly, such as cutting weeds by the roots. Since even Victoria's Return had been destroyed, there was no way the other three countries would leave behind the emperor's most beloved harem beauties or the most loyal family members. Would they wait for them to find an opportunity to retaliate? The same was true for the ministers. Their closest relatives had definitely been killed, and the remaining ones weren't that important. Even though they were family members, they were probably just some pitiful concubines and maids who were forced to submit to those fellows. As long as these few key points were grasped, using these female experts wouldn't be a problem. With this, the lack of manpower in Runzi workshop would greatly improve, and Mei could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Wang Sheng hadn't been in this world for long, so he didn't have a particularly good understanding of it. Mei had come into contact with many things in the business world in Baoqing Yutang, but she didn't have the qualifications to dip a finger into Baoqing Yutang's true core strength, let alone know about it. Especially in this aspect, she was extremely lacking. Neither of them knew, which made things awkward. Many thanks for your guidance. Wang Sheng sincerely cupped his hands towards LV Wenho and Ling. This made Ling even happier, and her face twisted so much that it almost reached the heavens. The atmosphere became more and more relaxed, and the rest of the conversation was basically about winemaking. Since Wang Sheng had agreed to cooperate, he also showed his sincerity. He immediately had LV Wenho arrange for a batch of the world's best wine to be brought over, as well as the raw materials and Saccharomyces cerevisiae. Wang Sheng wanted to select the most suitable batch for brewing. As for how to do it, the Imperial Treasury would definitely be in charge. If he couldn't get his hands on famous wineries, Wang Sheng didn't mind. At the very least, he would be able to get his hands on those small wineries in the countryside. What Wang Sheng wanted was to find similar wineries on Earth, not the exact same ones. In addition, Wang Sheng needed a few superb carpentry masters, a few winemaking masters, and a few formation masters. Although Wang Sheng knew several such masters, if the Imperial Treasury didn't want their winemaking techniques to be leaked, they could only find their own people. Chapter 735. LV Wenho left with Ling to do the preparation work. Collecting the world's best wine was not a difficult thing for the Imperial Treasure House. They originally had branches all over the world. It was enough for each branch to pay a little attention to the local situation. Waiting for the arrival of Sister Rosa, Waiting for the arrival of the group of beautiful masters, Wang Sheng finally ushered in the moment when the combat consciousness villain deduced the Daozong mental cultivation method. This was not a simple optimization of the Daozong mental cultivation method, but the deduction of the Daozong mental cultivation method and the Shoujing mental cultivation method at the same time. After careful calculation by the 64 combat consciousness villains, according to the aperture acupoint routes that would not interfere with each other, according to the maximum efficiency of the transfer of spiritual energy, the best cultivation method was calculated. There was a moment when the 64 little people with combat consciousness suddenly gathered together and became one. At this moment, there was a complete Daozong mental cultivation method and the Shoujing mental cultivation method running at the same time in Wang Sheng's mind. It contained a lot of content: how to mobilize spiritual energy, how to strengthen oneself, how to output spiritual energy from various apertures when fighting, how to exert the greatest effect, and even the combination of the Tai Chi Yang Cyclone and the Daozong mental cultivation method. It was very complete. Without saying anything, Wang Sheng told Steward Wang that he was going to retreat today, and then he stayed in the practice room alone and began to cultivate. It must be said that the combat consciousness villains were completely based on Wang Sheng's current situation. It was a complete fit with Wang Sheng's physical conditions. From the beginning, Wang Sheng did not feel that there was any particular difficulty. He followed the method given all the way to attack the aperture acupoints one by one. Of course, there was no particularly difficult place, nor was there particularly easy place. The difficulty was just enough for Wang Sheng to work hard to achieve, but it was impossible to do it easily. It took Wang Sheng a full 3 days to improve the route of spiritual energy according to the new circulation route, and it was the first time that he succeeded in completing the complete circulation route of spiritual energy. Wang Sheng controlled the spiritual energy again to familiarize himself with the aperture acupoints in his body twice, and then he temporarily stopped to take a rest. Cultivation was also a matter of a combination of work and rest, and it was impossible to achieve overnight. Forcefully pushing it would only damage one's foundation. The gains did not make up for the losses. After a simple relaxation, Wang Sheng finished eating and drinking. Then, he took a nourishing pill that Mayor had specially asked Grandmaster Li Ziyan to make. Then, he returned to his room and slept soundly. For the rest of the day, Wang Sheng did not think about the new cultivation method. Instead, he continued to practice with his usual equipment. Then, he practiced Tai Chi a few times in the swimming pool. He also practiced various swimming styles and diving in the swimming pool. After another day, Wang Sheng continued to cultivate the scripture of Tao. With the foundation of successfully running it 3 times, the next step was simple. Wang Sheng called a weekday. For the first few weekdays, Wang Sheng was still familiar with the route. Each weekday was shorter than the previous weekday. He believed that after a period of strengthening and familiarizing himself with it, the time needed would become shorter and shorter, and then stabilize at a fixed speed. Familiarizing himself with the route was the foundation. The next step was to combine the yin-yang cyclone of Tai Chi with the scripture of Tao. Every time the spiritual energy reached an aperture acupoint, Wang Sheng's aperture would absorb the spiritual energy into the yin-yang cyclone of Tai Chi to accelerate the rotation, condense, purify, and absorb it. Every aperture would be processed in this way, so that after a weekday, the spiritual energy absorbed from the outside world would be enough for a second stage expert to breathe for half a day. It would be compressed and condensed by almost 1,000 times, leaving only a little bit. Most of it would dissipate, and the rest would be scattered and stored in each aperture, slowly improving one's cultivation. Then it would be a cycle. When Wang Sheng was able to complete the weekday cycle, Wang Sheng stopped again. Although this was just a simple breakthrough, it had already taken Wang Sheng another 3 days and 3 nights to complete. At this point, Wang Sheng could be considered to be able to cultivate according to the new scripture of Tao scripture of Tao. In the future, he didn't need to go into closed-door cultivation. As long as he cultivated every day, he would slowly get used to it, and gradually treat this route as an instinct of the body. At that time, Wang Sheng didn't need to control it, and it would naturally circulate. This time, he was afraid it would last for at least 2 months. This was also good. He could take this opportunity to properly arrange the beauties and experts in the Triumph Palace in the capital, and solve the wine brewing method in the imperial treasury. After that, he could enter the place of Thousand Despair. While waiting calmly for Sister Rosa and the beauties to arrive in the capital, Wang Sheng once again received an invitation from the emperor to visit. As usual, Mayer went to the backyard to chat with the empress, and Wang Sheng accompanied the emperor in the central hall. Upon seeing Steward Zhou didn't even have the time to report to the emperor. He stared at Wang Sheng's face for a while, looking up and down as if he couldn't figure it out. After a long while, Steward Zhou finally revealed a smile. He cupped his hands towards Wang Sheng and said, "Congratulations to the Marquis for making great progress in your cultivation. It's all thanks to you." Wang Sheng returned the greeting with a smile, but he couldn't help cursing in his heart. Was it that obvious? He had just started the weekday cycle, which he was not familiar with, and there was already such a big change? You can tell at a glance. Since Steward Zhou could see the change in Wang Sheng's cultivation, the Son of Heaven would naturally know. The first sentence the Son of Heaven said to Wang Sheng when he saw him was to encourage him, cultivate the heart of calmness well, and quickly ascend to the next realm. Then, you can marry Mayer. Wang Sheng almost wanted to question the Son of Heaven. As the Son of Heaven, why didn't you care about the world's affairs? Why did you care about whether Mayer and I could get married? But he knew that some words shouldn't provoke the Son of Heaven too much, so he refrained from saying it. I already said, the heart of calmness is definitely suitable for you to cultivate. The Son of Heaven seemed to have no end to this topic and continued to talk about it. You see, it has only been a few months, and you have already cultivated to a decent level. After forcing himself to deal with the Son of Heaven for a while about the relationship between the heart of calmness and Mayer, the Son of Heaven slowly turned to the main topic, the beauties that Tang, Xia, and Feng countries gave you. How do you plan to deal with them? First, he urged Wang Sheng to marry Mayer, and now he talked about how to deal with the beauties. Wang Sheng wasn't a fool, of course. He understood the Son of Heaven's intention. The Son of Heaven was afraid that Wang Sheng would fall in love with someone else because of Mayer's natural charm. He couldn't stand the seduction of the beauties and would abandon Mayer. Of course, Wang Sheng wouldn't do that. But wasn't the Son of Heaven a little too enthusiastic? Mayer was just the adopted daughter of the Empress. Why was he in such a hurry? The Empress was a natural charm, and so was Mayer. Was there a story behind this? Maybe when he went to the Thousand Despair grounds, he would have to make a detour to Carefree City to ask the old eunuch what happened in the past. Was there any relationship between Mayer and the Empress? Chapter 736. Asking the Shadow was a matter for the future. Right now, Wang Sheng still had to answer Tianzi's question. Fortunately, although it was a headache at first, after meeting with LV Wenho, Wang Sheng basically had a way to deal with it. In front of the Son of Heaven, Wang Sheng did not hide anything. He told Mayer the way to settle these beauties, as well as what Miss Ling had hinted to him. If this is the way to deal with it, it's generally not bad. Tianzi nodded his head slightly, and then said with a smile, "But you might be taking it for granted. Could it be that among these beauties, there are some who really want revenge?" Wang Sheng was stunned. Taking it for granted? Did Tianzi know something? Revenge? Tianzi was also shocked by the word Wang Sheng said. After he reacted, he laughed again. That's not necessarily the case. Although these beauties are a bit special, they won't go as far as to make a move on you guys. Tang, Xia, and Feng Guo aren't fools. If they give you a group of disloyal people, aren't they afraid that you will teach them a lesson? Tianzi's insight was better than Miss Ling air. Without even meeting them, he already knew what the 3 countries were planning. From the point of view of the 3 countries, unless there was a super expert among these beauties who could kill Wang Sheng with a single strike, they would kill Wang Sheng the moment they saw him. At the same time, it would also mean that they would no longer want any help from Wang Sheng regarding the grounds of Thousand Despair. Otherwise, How could they have arranged for someone who displeased Wang Sheng to come here? Even if they were prisoners of war, the three countries would definitely carefully screen them. They even used all kinds of threats and temptations to get those beauties to agree before sending them over. Otherwise, wouldn't they be looking for trouble for themselves? They wouldn't be so stupid as to send gifts and complain. Wang Sheng and Mei Er were purely scaring themselves. They worried for half a day and looked for a solution for many days. In the end, they even pulled Sister Rosa along. They didn't expect it to be so simple with Tianzi. There was no need to worry about the reason they were worried about. What's wrong with these experts? Wang Sheng, of course, remembered what Tianzi had just said. Wang Sheng took it for granted and hurriedly asked. This was the result of Wang Sheng's analysis errors, which was rare for him. It was caused by the mismatch of information and vision. Tianzi also didn't see these beauties, but even without meeting them, Tianzi could still judge the thoughts of the three countries. This was the gap between them. Wang Sheng acknowledged this gap and was learning humbly. He had never thought that he could crush all the experts in this world since he came from Earth. He would fool them when he could, but most of the time, Wang Sheng still had to work hard to learn how to blend in. You want these so-called female experts to work for you? Guard the house? At first, Tianzi pretended to be profound and slowly put on airs. Then, he opened his mouth and said, "Do you think those experts who can fight on the battlefield will be so easily captured? Would you be willing to be sent here and there as a gift?" Ugh! Wang Sheng listened to Tianzi's words and was immediately stunned. After a while, Wang Sheng seemed to realize something. Then, with a look of realization on his face, he asked, "You're saying that they claim to be sending a group of female experts over, but they're actually just sending a bunch of beauties over? What experts? It's just a cover. What do you think?" It was rare for Tianzi to have the opportunity to give advice to Wang Sheng. In the past, he always got the solution from Wang Sheng. This time, he felt so good from the inside to the outside. Giving advice to Wang Sheng and watching Wang Sheng being corrected like a silly boy was simply too enjoyable. Damn, Wang Sheng couldn't help but curse. What the F***ck is this? However, to say that they're experts, they can also be considered as experts. Tianzi continued in an enigmatic tone, "I have never seen this group of girls before, but I can be sure that every one of them is not lower than the 5th stage realm, maybe even higher. There are also quite a number of 7th and 8th stage realm cultivators. Do you think they are experts? 7th or 8th stage realm experts, of course. If they are not experts, then what is? But since they are experts in this realm, how could they accept being sent here and there as a gift? How is the mind control cultivation method?" Tianzi suddenly asked an irrelevant question. "Very good," Wang Sheng replied without hesitation. Later, he felt that this was not enough to describe the mind control cultivation method and immediately added, "Peerless cultivation method." "That's right, peerless cultivation method." Tianzi agreed with Wang Sheng's statement. He was also very concerned about it. When he heard Wang Sheng's words, he was very happy. But he immediately asked, "That if I cultivate the mind control cultivation method to the 8th stage realm, am I considered as an expert?" Wang Sheng wanted to answer, but suddenly realized that a direct answer would make Tianzi lose face. So he only opened his mouth, but didn't say anything. But the sudden stop and the hesitation on his face had already explained a lot of problems. In an instant, Wang Sheng understood Tianzi's meaning. There were cultivation realms, 7th stage realm and 8th stage realm, but what they cultivated weren't battle-based cultivation methods, but some other supporting type cultivation methods, so they were only top exponents in name. That is to say, not only can I not use them to guard the house, but I also need to find a group of experts to protect them. After thinking it through, Wang Sheng realized another problem. "What do you think?" Tianzi asked in an enigmatic manner. The smile on his face was as proud as it could be. All of a sudden, Wang Sheng did not know how to describe his feelings. At first, he thought that it could alleviate the lack of manpower in the Runzi workshop. But he was worried that these people would take revenge. Later, Miss Ling reminded Wang Sheng and Mei Er to be less worried. But when it came to Tianzi, he realized that not only could these people not solve the lack of manpower, but they also needed more manpower. Victoria's Return Palace has been able to stand tall all these years and is able to casually take out tens of millions of gold coins. It's not because they have many powerful experts, nor is it because they have some powerful pill recipes. Tianzi looked at Wang Sheng's depressed look and was happy for a while. Then he slowly said, but because they have a very profitable business. Wang Sheng was not a fool. In just a few breaths, he thought of the answer. Human trafficking? Selling these beauties? Yes. The Son of Heaven nodded and said, their Victorious Return Palace has a set of cultivation techniques specifically for women to cultivate. After cultivating it, the woman's figure and appearance will become very beautiful. Moreover, it can also bring great pleasure to men. Therefore, this business has always been profitable. Don't they know it's a crime? Wang Sheng was not a person who hated evil, but when he heard this, he was still very angry. Chapter 737. Going Against the Heavens? Not to that extent. Unexpectedly, Tianzi didn't think so. Instead, after a little consideration, he said with certainty, at least I haven't heard of any forced practices. Those girls are orphans collected from all over the world. It is said that every time they take away an orphan, they will report to the local government. Report to the local government? Wang Sheng was stunned on the spot. It wasn't forced prostitution, but orphans that were adopted from a young age, and there was no forced practices. Could it be that those girls were willing? Yes. Seeing that Wang Sheng didn't believe it and looked at him with a questioning gaze, Tianzi nodded with certainty. Otherwise, why do you think they could be sold at such a high price? To be able to support a hidden sect for hundreds of years? AI. Wang Sheng looked at Tianzi's expression and couldn't help but secretly sigh in his heart. Voluntary. Adopting orphans from a young age can be said to be a good deed. But as long as they are brainwashed from a young age, isn't it just a matter of a few words for them to be willing to sacrifice themselves for the sect? Wang Sheng didn't believe that Tianzi didn't know of such a method. Otherwise, where did so many loyal servants come from? But Wang Sheng would never believe that Triumph Palace would be so kind as to seek a happy life for orphans. How can there be so many absolute good and absolute evil in this world? The Son of Heaven seemed to have seen some clues from Wang Sheng's expression. He slowly opened his mouth and said, at least you have to believe that they help those poor orphans find a rich man who doesn't have to worry about food and clothing, allowing them to live a life of luxury. They also obtained gold coins for the development of the sect. It's much better than them selling themselves as slaves. Who knows, they might not even have the chance to grow up. Wang Sheng agreed with this point. It was just that when he first heard about this kind of thing, he couldn't accept it. It wasn't that he was a saint and wanted to stand up for these people. Not to mention, there were so many servants in Wang Sheng's mansion. Weren't they taken from the seventh prince's and several other ministers' mansions? This was originally a world like this. When the Son of Heaven once again reminded Wang Sheng not to be captivated by beauty, Wang Sheng already completely understood the Son of Heaven's meaning. Speaking of which, Tianzi wasn't worried that these so-called beauties would bring any trouble to the safety of Wang Sheng and Mei Er. His only worry was that Wang Sheng would be fascinated by the beauties sent by the three kingdoms and neglect Mei Er. Tianzi's love for Mei Er was not ordinary. If there was nothing fishy going on, Wang Sheng would never believe it. However, Wang Sheng also believed that Mei Er did not know about their relationship. Otherwise, with Mei Er's reliance on Wang Sheng, she would have told him long ago. Did Annie Sue tell you anything strange? Wang Sheng couldn't help but ask Mei Er when they returned to the Houfu. Yes. Just as Mei Er answered this sentence, her pretty face immediately turned red. What Annie Sue told her were all about how to make a man happy and how to hook a man's heart. How could she tell this to Wang Sheng? Wang Sheng did not continue to ask. He already understood that the Son of Heaven and his wife's meeting this time was completely because they were afraid that Wang Sheng would fall into the beauty trap. Wang Sheng actually really wanted to tell the Son of Heaven and his wife that they were thinking too much. Just as Wang Sheng continued to stay in the Houfu to practice the Tao Cannon Guarding Heart technique for 3 days, the people from Worry-Free City finally arrived. Originally, Wang Sheng only asked Sister Rosa to come. However, in order to protect her, Aki also sent a few guards and brought some top-quality pills that were bought in Worry-Free City to Wang Sheng. Aki did not come. She still stayed in Worry-Free City. Sometimes she would go to the Thousand Despair grounds to have a look. Now everyone in Worry-Free City had tacitly agreed that Aki was Wang Sheng's concubine, so they were very polite to her. The Imperial Treasury's camp was always open to her free of charge. During this time, Aki should have almost explored the periphery of the Thousand Despair grounds. When Sister Rosa arrived at the capital, Wang Sheng personally greeted her at the entrance of the Hofu. Sister Rosa sat in a large carriage, but before they reached the gate, Wang Sheng's brows wrinkled. There was not only Sister Rosa in the carriage, there was also an expert with an unusually subtle breath. Listening to the sound, smelling the smell, and using the Xing formula, Wang Sheng instantly and accurately judged the position and posture of the other party. Once there was any movement, Wang Sheng could immediately take action. The guards next to him did not have any abnormalities. They should be aware of this situation. Wang Sheng also did not change his expression. After greeting Sister Rosa, who got off the carriage, the group of people and the carriage entered the courtyard of the Hofu. Hoye's spiritual qi detection is very powerful. After entering the manor, a child's voice sounded out from the carriage. It sounded extremely clear and had a strange charm to it. Then, the curtain was lifted and a slender hand was placed on the side of the door. Then, a slender figure appeared from the door. Sister Rosa took a step forward and helped the woman who looked very mature with a baby face out of the carriage. With just a few simple actions, it had already matched all the beautiful and seductive characteristics of women that Wang Sheng could imagine. Her figure, appearance, tone, movements, as well as that kind of delicate and pitiful appearance that constantly exuded a unique and attractive temperament. If it was an ordinary man, he was afraid that he would not be able to withstand such extreme temptation. They had only just met, and she was already like this. Wang Sheng believed that if they really got to know each other for a period of time, it was estimated that ordinary men would definitely be captivated by her pomegranate skirt. Next to him, Mayer's eyes were already emitting fire. What was going on with this Sister Rosa? Did she bring a beauty to cause trouble? Finally, she considered herself to be the host and did not act out on the spot. Wang Sheng looked at Sister Rosa with an inquiring gaze. He believed that Sister Rosa would not bring such a stunner to his residence for no reason. Sister Rosa helped the woman to stand and then apologized to Wang Sheng. "Ho Yi, please forgive me. Victory Palace is in trouble, and my master has nowhere to go. I sincerely ask Ho Yi to take her in." "Master?" Sister Rosa looked to be in her early 30s this year, so her master should be at least in his 50s, right? Where was she? "This is my master." Sister Rosa looked at Wang Sheng and Mei Er's confused expressions and hurriedly helped the beautiful woman and introduced Victory Palace's hidden hall master. "This old woman, Tantai Yao, greets Ho Yi." The woman with a charming baby voice waited for Sister Rosa to finish her introduction, and then followed suit and bowed to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng and Mei Er were directly dumbfounded. They were not stunned by Tantai Yao's appearance and behavior, but by the way she addressed herself as this old woman. Such a fresh beauty, who looked to be about the same age as Mei Er, actually called herself this old woman? Chapter 738. If they didn't see the person and didn't hear the voice, Wang Sheng and Mei Er would definitely have no problem with Tantai Yao calling herself an old lady at that time. Sister Rosa's master was at least 50 years old. It was not an exaggeration to call her an old lady. However, Tantai Yao in front of them was not even at the age of Sister Rosa, but she actually said such old-fashioned words. It was really strange, especially when she spoke with a charming baby voice. It was simply maddening. Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao might have seen such a scene many times. Looking at the expressions of Wang Sheng and Mei Er, they both covered their mouths and snickered. This made Wang Sheng and Mei Er, who reacted, feel embarrassed. "My master is already 65 years old this year." After laughing, Sister Rosa explained with a smile, "It's just that my master has always been good at maintaining her youthful looks. Don't be too surprised. Hearing Sister Rosa's explanation, Mayer's eyes were already wide open. She didn't care about anything else. She directly rushed up and called her senior sweetly. This was more than just a youthful appearance technique. It was simply eternal youth. How could Mayer, who was in the cosmetics and beauty business and cared about her appearance so much, sit still? To be able to maintain such a figure and appearance at the age of 65, Wang Sheng could not help but sigh in amazement at this sight. Compared with this person, the various kinds of hyaluronic acid and Botox on Earth were simply too weak. Seeing that her master was pestered by Mayer for advice, Sister Rosa smiled slightly and bowed slightly to Wang Sheng again. Thank you for taking me in, Marquis. There's no need to say this between us, right? Wang Sheng smiled and waved his hand. The first time he met Sister Rosa was when Wang Sheng just went to Carefree City to apply for the killer card. It could be said that they were already old acquaintances. Whether it was the cooperation later or Sister Rosa serving Wang Sheng, they had a lot of communication. There was really no need to say these things between acquaintances. It's different. Sister Rosa had a smile on her face, but the rims of her eyes were slightly red. Victoria's Return Palace just had an accident, and now they're here to kick us while we're down. If not for the Marquis taking us in, I'm afraid that both my master and I would have met with misfortune. You must be joking. Sister Rosa said that Wang Sheng would take them in. That was the truth, but wasn't it too much of an exaggeration to say that Wang Sheng wouldn't take them in if he didn't? Wang Sheng asked with a little surprise. Senior Tantai has such a powerful cultivation. If you dare to have ideas about her, aren't you tired of living? Not to mention anything else. Tantai Yao gave Wang Sheng a feeling that she was a powerhouse of the legendary realm. He didn't know if she had reached the peak of the legendary realm, but she was definitely at the intermediate stage of the legendary realm. Who would dare to have any ideas on a legendary middle stage expert and such a beautiful woman? Sister Rosa had already widened her eyes and looked at Wang Sheng as if she was looking at a monster. Tantai Yao, who was next to her, had also stopped talking with Mayer. She was also looking at Wang Sheng with an incredulous face. Mayer should have also heard something from the Empress. Now, she was also surprised. Marquis, do you still not know about some unique martial arts of our Victoria's Return Palace? The scene was silent for 2 seconds, and Sister Rosa asked Wang Sheng with a smile. I've heard a little about it. Wang Sheng nodded and admitted honestly. My master and I practice this kind of martial arts. Sister Rosa said the words, this kind of martial arts, very seriously, as if she was reminding Wang Sheng of something. Is it just a beautifying martial arts? Wang Sheng's gaze turned towards Tantai Ro. When he saw her innocent expression, his ears twitched slightly. He could feel the sound of Tantai Ro's breathing and heartbeat. That was not the behavior of an ordinary woman who was slightly stronger. It was even more impossible for a 65-year-old old lady to behave like that. The Xing formula was silently spoken again. In the next moment, Wang Sheng was even more certain that everything everyone saw and heard was all an illusion. Tantai Yao was simply a powerful expert. She was definitely not a weak woman who could only rely on a man's favor. Senior's cultivation is very strong. This junior admires you. Wang Sheng bowed slightly to Tantai Ro and said these words. Tantai Yao's face slowly hid her surprise and returned to normal. Then, she slowly put on a smile and said, Marquis's eyes are really bright. This old one admires you. Once this was said, even Sister Rosa was shocked. She looked at Tantai Yao in disbelief and called out in disbelief, Master, Marquis, do you have a quiet place? Tantai Yao did not explain immediately and asked Wang Sheng. Excuse me. Wang Sheng hurriedly made an inviting gesture. This way, please. Wang Sheng and Mayer accompanied Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao to the inner hall that was used to entertain female guests. After serving tea and dismissing the attendants, Wang Sheng said to the two women, It's quiet here. There aren't many years here. Senior, please instruct us. Sigh. Tantai Yao sighed. She looked at Sister Rosa and then looked at Wang Sheng and Mei. Then she said, Actually, I only realized this year. Triumph Palace's special cultivation method for women to cultivate could indeed bring about the effect of maintaining one's youth and beauty. However, it was not of much help in battle. It could only make women more youthful, more beautiful, and more attractive. Of course, the most basic strengthening of the body could still be achieved. After cultivating this cultivation method, the body's flexibility and balance could reach an unimaginable level. As long as a man came into contact with it, he would not be able to leave. This also caused the women released by Victorious Return Palace's Hidden Hall to become extremely popular. With the support of Victorious Return Palace, the disciples of the Hidden Hall could choose their own suitable partners. Everything was voluntary. This was also the reason why the Heavenly Emperor felt that Victorious Return Palace wasn't that evil. However, nothing was absolute. From the beginning of cultivating this cultivation method all the way to the 8th-stage realm, the women who cultivated basically didn't have much combat strength. However, once the cultivation method was cultivated to the 9th-stage realm and reached the legend rank realm, the woman who cultivated would be reborn overnight and become a terrifying female warrior with extremely powerful combat strength. Of course, their appearance would not deteriorate. Instead, they would become more charming. In the past, the female disciples who cultivated this cultivation method had never been able to enter the legend rank realm. Therefore, from the inside out, everyone felt that this cultivation method was only a cultivation method for women to maintain their youth. No one would treat those who cultivated this cultivation method as a warrior, let alone guard against them. Until Wang Sheng saw Tantai Yao. He was the first to realize that Tantai Yao had a terrifying combat strength. You haven't reached this realm yet. Naturally, you won't understand. Tantai Yao's words were directed at Sister Rosa. I have only reached this realm for a few months. After we met, I didn't have the time to tell you. Although she was explaining to Sister Rosa, she also indirectly expressed to Wang Sheng and Mayer that Sister Rosa didn't know about it and didn't intend to deceive Wang Sheng. Chapter 739. Actually, Master was the one who told me about the palace lord sending out law enforcement disciples. At this point, Sister Rosa and Wang Sheng had nothing to hide, so they spoke the truth. Wang Sheng nodded. This was normal. The last time Mian had sent a letter from Worry-Free City, it said Sister Rosa had learned the news from the mouth of a drunken high-ranking official. Since the Victorious Return King and his ministers had decided to assassinate the everlasting champion Marquis, why would they still send a messenger bird message to Victorious Return Palace in Worry-Free City? Senior, what is your official position in Victorious Return as the Hall Master of the Hidden Hall? Wang Sheng asked curiously. No official position. I'm just a member of the sect's Elder Council. But because I'm a woman and don't have much strength, I can only inform them when something happens. I don't even need to discuss it with them. It's not even as good as when I was in Victorious Return Palace. This was understandable. Back in Victorious Return Palace, the Hidden Hall was an important source of income for the sect. Naturally, those with high status had the right to speak. After establishing the country and being conferred the title of Marquis, they had land, population, and output. With a territory with a radius of 1,000 miles and a population of millions or even tens of millions, the income was much higher than the small profit that the Hidden Hall earned from selling a few women. Naturally, it was not valued. In fact, when Lord Marquis killed over 100 experts from that villa, yet you didn't make a move against the disciples in the lands of 1,000 despair, this old woman already knew that Victorious Return was in danger. Tantai Yao was old and shrewd. Adding on to the fact that she was the Hall Master of the Hidden Hall, her job was to teach the female disciples how to capture the hearts of men. She could guess what Wang Sheng was thinking in an instant, so she immediately jumped out to express her thoughts. This old woman didn't do anything wrong to Victorious Return Palace, nor did I do anything wrong to the disciples of my Hidden Hall. I didn't want to follow them to their deaths for no reason. So, I went straight to Worry-Free City to look for Rosa. What a smart person, Wang Sheng inwardly nodded. To be able to discern the signs of danger from just a few clues, this woman was far more intelligent than Victorious Return and their elders. The Dai clan had made a move on Wang Sheng, and not a single expert in the grounds of Thousand Despair was spared. Even the Dai clan's Grand Elder was dragged into this mess. What right did Victorious Return Palace have to make a move on Wang Sheng's property? Only the people who made the move had to be killed. Could it be that the ones who made the decision had to be let off as well? From this angle, one would be able to see some clues. That was an extremely dangerous moment. It was laughable that Victorious Return Palace Master and those ministers thought that Wang Sheng was afraid of them, and that his death wasn't unjust. Previously, he had invited Sister Rosa to the capital to settle down those beautiful female experts that were about to be sent over. However, now that he had Sister Rosa's master, the Hall Master of the Hidden Hall, things seemed to be a lot easier. Actually, I shamelessly followed Rosa to the Marquis residence because I have a request. After explaining so much, Tantai Yao didn't wait for Wang Sheng to speak and took the initiative to state the purpose of her visit. "Senior, please speak." Wang Sheng hurriedly said politely, "Sister Rosa has taken care of me a lot in the past, in the worry-free city. Anything can be discussed." The meaning behind his words was to give Sister Rosa some face. Mayer also blinked her beautiful big eyes and looked at the unaging beauty in front of her, waiting for her to speak her purpose. It's a bit embarrassing to say it. Tantai Yao seemed to be a bit hesitant to say it. After hesitating for a while, she finally said, "This old lady shamelessly came to ask Marquis residents to take in this old lady and Rosa." Good, good. Without waiting for Wang Sheng to agree, Mayer hastily nodded her head and agreed. "From now on, you will live in the Marquis residence. You can stay as long as you want." I couldn't ask for more, so it was this request. Wang Sheng thought it was something important as he nodded his head in agreement without a second thought. "Senior and Sister Rosa are able to come and help me. It's my fortune." Wang Sheng asked Aki to bring Sister Rosa to his residence was actually to take care of her. He couldn't let Sister Rosa be implicated because of Triumph Palace. After all, she was someone who had helped him before, and Wang Sheng wasn't that kind of unjust person. With one more Tantai Yao, there was no problem at all. Not to mention that she had reminded him, through Sister Rosa, to be careful of the Triumph Palace's disciplinary disciples. Just the title of Sister Rosa's master was enough for Wang Sheng to give her enough respect. Not to mention that this unaging beauty was a terrifying 9th stage realm middle stage top exponent. Mayer also nodded her head hurriedly. Asking to be taken in was because she was being courteous. A 9th stage realm middle stage top exponent. Where couldn't she live well? To be able to come was giving Wang Sheng face. Giving her face, so of course she had to treat her well. What's more, this old beauty's cultivation method absolutely made Mayer drool. Looking at Mayer's look as though she had picked up a treasure, Wang Sheng couldn't help but shook his head slightly. This woman, on seeing that she had a technique to preserve her looks, immediately became a brainless fan. She didn't even think, on what basis did a 9th stage realm middle stage top exponent have to seek protection from a 6th or 7th stage realm junior? "Thank you, Marquis." "Thank you, madam." Tantai Yao stood up gracefully and thanked him. "This concubine greets you." But she quietly changed the way she addressed her to concubine. Speaking of thanking madam, Mayer was so happy that she didn't know what to do. She totally didn't care about Tantai Yao's way of addressing herself, but Wang Sheng heard it clearly. Such an unaging beauty, staying in his residence, and calling herself concubine every day, just thinking about it was a huge trouble. With Tantai Yao's cultivation, she could live well anywhere, so why did she have to come to his residence? Wang Sheng couldn't help but grumble in his heart. He was afraid that he would have to open one more eye when he slept in the Marquis's residence. "Marquis, with your vision, if Marquis and I were to fight, who would win and who would lose?" Tantai Yao was like a psychological analyzer. Her gaze swept across accurately, as though she could see through what Wang Sheng was thinking. Just as Wang Sheng was feeling puzzled, Tantai Yao smiled and asked a question. "If it's a spar, I definitely can't beat Senior." Wang Sheng was stunned. Then he looked at Tantai Yao and replied seriously, "If it's a life and death battle, I'm afraid Senior won't be able to escape." After answering this question, Wang Sheng understood why Tantai Yao, a legendary realm top exponent, came to the Marquis's residence to seek protection. In the past few decades, Tantai Yao had been cultivating these beauty-preserving mantra. It wasn't that she didn't cultivate the combat cultivation method, but because of the repulsion between the two cultivation methods, the combat cultivation method could only be cultivated to the 4th stage realm at most. For the past few decades, Tantai Yao had been living like a princess in Triumph Palace. Let alone fighting, she probably hadn't even done heavy work many times. Such a delicate young lady. Now that Triumph Palace had suddenly been destroyed, if she didn't find a backer, it would be impossible for her to live freely. Chapter 740. Of course, everything was only temporary. With the strength of the legendary realm, as long as she adapted for a year or two, she could become a true legendary realm expert and live freely. The problem was that she had been used to living a quiet life under the protection of the Triumph Palace for more than 60 years. Even when the Triumph Palace was conferred the title of Marquis and established a country, Tantai Yao didn't resist and chose to endure it. Of course, it was related to the fact that Tantai Yao didn't obtain the strength of the legendary realm before, but it was also inseparable from her character of seeking stability. The Triumph Palace had been divided up by the destroyed countries. If Tantai Yao wanted to live a stable and prosperous life, she could only find another expert with sufficient strength and financial resources to stand behind her. Tantai Yao was beautiful, had a good figure, and had an attractive temperament. The problem was that she was already 65 years old. Those who knew her background were either greedy for a fresh taste of her body or had ulterior motives. It was impossible for them to confide in her and accept her with ease. Therefore, it was impossible for the major feudal vassals to accept her, and it was even more impossible for the emperor to accept her. Those big businessmen met her requirements, but the problem was which shrewd businessman would accept her purely because of her beauty. There must be many uses. After thinking about it, perhaps only the upstart Wang Sheng was most suitable for her requirements and was most likely to accept her. I understand. Wang Sheng smiled at Tantai Yao and said, Senior can stay in the Marquis residence with Sister Rosa. Do whatever you want and treat this place as your home. It was easy to talk to smart people. Tantai Yao nodded and smiled at Wang Sheng. She turned to Sister Rosa and said, Rosa, the Marquis is generous. Don't be secretive. Sister Rosa agreed, and then said to Wang Sheng and Mei Er in front of Mei Er's puzzled eyes, Madam, please prepare a room for me to wash my face and makeup. Wang Sheng watched inexplicably as Mei Er took Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa to the room at the back. However, it was best not to go over when women were washing and making up. This was common sense etiquette. Wang Sheng didn't make such a disgraceful mistake and sat quietly. How could this be? It's amazing. Use this. This looks good. This color looks good. Wear this. Even though Mei Er's voice was separated by a few rooms, Wang Sheng could hear it clearly. The three women were washing their faces, combing their hair, putting on makeup, and changing their clothes in the back room. Wang Sheng could hear everything clearly. In the process, Mei Er's voice could be heard from time to time. At first, she was surprised, then she was amazed, and then she gave suggestions. She sounded very happy. After half an hour, Wang Sheng finally heard the sound of the three people slowly walking out. After such a long time, the tea in Wang Sheng's hand had been changed 3 times. Hearing the sound of footsteps approaching the door, Wang Sheng raised his head. Then his eyes suddenly widened. Among the 3 people, Mei Er and Tantai Yao didn't change much. They still looked the same as when they just went out. However, Sister Rosa, who had always been a middle-aged woman, had become a charming and mature woman. Looking at her age, she was at most in her youth. Her eyes were still Sister Rosa's eyes. Her nose didn't change, and her mouth was the same. However, her cheeks were much thinner. Previously, she had a slightly plump and wrinkled round face. Now, it had become a standard goose egg face. Thinking about it, she must have used something to change her appearance. The wrinkles on her face had disappeared, and it was abnormally smooth. Under Mayer's guidance, Sister Rosa put on some light makeup and changed into a simple and elegant dress. She no longer looked travel-worn. Her hairstyle also changed. It was no longer the casual hairstyle that she had in Carefree City. It matched her current face very well. Not only did her face change, even Sister Rosa's waist seemed to have become a lot slimmer. Her chest was full. Although it couldn't compare to Mayer's, it was still very majestic. When she walked, she was no longer the shrewish woman from the Assassin's Hall in Carefree City. Instead, she was a well-educated lady. In just an hour, Sister Rosa had changed from a middle-aged, caring elder sister to a young woman who had lost at least 10 years of age. On Earth, Wang Sheng had seen this kind of magical makeup technique on a video website. He never thought that in the source spirit world, it would actually be performed in front of Wang Sheng. It was no wonder. Sister Rosa was Tantai Yao's disciple. So how could she be a slovenly woman from the marketplace? This was just a disguise she had in Carefree City. It was very normal. Sister Rosa is so beautiful. Wang Sheng sincerely praised. After praising, he saw Mayer and Tantai Yao's expressions. He immediately praised. Mayer and Senior Tantai are also unparalleled in this world. My eyes are in for a treat. The two beauties immediately revealed a smile on their faces. It was very pleasing to the eye. You don't need to call me Senior, just call me Sister Tantai. Tantai Yao was old, but her heart was not old. When she heard Wang Sheng call her Senior, she immediately corrected him. Sister Tantai. Wang Sheng readily followed her advice and immediately changed the way he addressed her. To Wang Sheng, he did not care about the rigid and dogmatic monarch and minister, master and disciple ethics. He could address her however he wanted. Sister Rosa is so beautiful. How could she bear to stay in Carefree City for so many years? Wang Sheng invited the three beauties to sit down again and asked in curiosity, if it was Mayer, she would definitely not be willing to be like that, even if she was beaten to death. Mayer kept nodding her head at the side. She completely agreed with Wang Sheng's opinion. AI, it has been hard on Rosa for more than 10 years. Tantai Yao let out a long sigh and explained to Wang Sheng, actually, Rosa stayed in Carefree City for so many years because of my orders. It can be considered as leaving a path of retreat for us master and disciple. As expected, it is of use now. 20 years ago, Tantai Yao had already sensed a restless atmosphere spreading throughout Victorious Return Palace. At that time, Victorious Return Palace was still a secluded sect, but the palace master and several elders seemed to have even greater ambitions. Realizing that something was wrong, Tantai Yao began to slowly arrange her path of retreat. Sister Rosa came to Carefree City under Tantai Yao's arrangements. She stayed for more than 10 years. She changed from a teenage girl who pretended to be mature to Sister Rosa who mingled in the streets. Tantai Yao did not hide it. The path of retreat she found back then was Carefree City Lord. Once something happened to Triumph Palace, Tantai Yao planned to immediately seek refuge under Carefree City Lord. However, Wang Sheng appeared out of nowhere a few years ago. He became more and more powerful, famous, and developed stronger. This made Tantai Ro feel that she had a better choice. The reason why she chose Wang Sheng was actually related to Mayer. Sister Rosa was very clear about how Wang Sheng helped Mayer. This also made Tantai Yao realize that Wang Sheng was relatively more humane. It would be more comfortable to work with such a person. Chapter 741. Two beauties came to his door, and one of them was friends with Wang Sheng. Originally, Wang Sheng planned to take care of her. Wasn't it a big deal to have one more master? For Wang Sheng, the huge estate of the Marquis's mansion had no problem supporting a pseudo-legendary realm master. Moreover, after a period of adaptation, this master would become a real legendary realm master. Just based on this, Wang Sheng could provide for Tantai Yao without asking for any reward. That's right, Marquis. Before we set off, the old housekeeper of the City Lord's mansion asked me to bring this to you. At this point, the ownership of Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao was basically confirmed. Sister Rosa seemed to suddenly think of something. She took out something from her storage ring and handed it to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng took it. It was a red metal plate. The shape was exactly the same as the blue plate that Wang Sheng had received before. Even the words on the back were the same. There was no need to ask. This was specially made for Wang Sheng. The Dai clan's Grand Elder, the Dai clan's many masters, and the hundreds of masters from Triumph Palace. According to the score calculation, it has exceeded the score of a red card assassin. Sister Rosa seemed to have become the exclusive service specialist of the Assassin Hall, but she had become younger and prettier. She smiled at Wang Sheng and introduced, "So, Marquis, you are now one of the red card assassins in Worry-Free City." In this world, almost every internal master of a big family or sect had a reward in Worry-Free City. Even Wang Sheng himself had a reward. It was just that no one had made a move yet. But since someone made a move and died, the score would be calculated to the killer. Because of this, Wang Sheng's score soared, and he quickly entered the ranks of the red card assassins. Thinking about it, Marquis should be the fastest to become a red card assassin. Sister Rosa solemnly smiled at Wang Sheng and said, "This is what the old housekeeper of the city lord's mansion said. It's not an exaggeration at all. Others killed one by one, but Wang Sheng was different. If he killed them in groups, how could his points not rise quickly? This time, Wang Sheng could show off in front of the old Taoist Ling Su. Junior brother, I'm also a red card killer. I won't let senior brother take all the credit. In other words, if I make a move in the future, the price will be different?" Wang Sheng asked with a smile. Yes. Sister Rosa was very good at making fun of him. "Marquis, you don't have to pay attention to the ordinary price." After that, everyone burst into laughter. The atmosphere was indescribably harmonious. It was just that Wang Sheng would accidentally see the beautiful scene of three beautiful women laughing and trembling. He had to constantly use the confrontation formula to calm himself down. Speaking of which, I have seen so many experts, but none of them knew that I was in the legendary realm. Tantai Yao, who was next to him, also spoke in a timely manner. She was still in a shocked tone. I didn't expect that I would be seen through by Marquis in the car before I even saw Marquis. "Marquis, your spiritual chi probing method is really amazing. Want to learn?" Wang Sheng smiled and said, "This is a unique skill of the Lao Jun Temple. If you are willing to join the Lao Jun Temple and it doesn't conflict with your cultivation technique, you can learn it. Forget it for now." Tantai Yao was very smart and knew when to stop. She immediately shook her head and said, "Let me adapt to the power in my body first." Wang Sheng nodded. People who knew what they wanted to do generally wouldn't be too greedy. It seemed that Tantai Yao should be a relatively easy person to get along with. After everyone chatted and laughed for a while, Sister Rosa finally asked Wang Sheng why he summoned her to the capital. "Marquis, why did you call me from Carefree City to the capital in such a hurry? Is there some trouble?" "It's like this." Wang Sheng didn't hide it. He called Sister Rosa over to help him solve the problem. Soon, Wang Sheng told Sister Rosa about the three kingdoms, gifting him more than 600 beautiful women. More than 600 people. Sister Rosa didn't say anything, but Tantai Yao already cried out in surprise. Her face was filled with happiness and anxiety, but in the end, she didn't say anything. Sister Rosa was also very surprised. They wouldn't be surprised if Victorious Return was wiped out without a single person escaping. Those guys had ambitions that couldn't match their strength, so it was only a matter of time before they were destroyed. But for them to still have more than 600 beautiful women, this was very surprising. "When they arrive, I'll meet them first, then we'll talk." Sister Rosa didn't directly pat her chest and promise Wang Sheng. Instead, she very cautiously expressed that she wanted to meet them first before deciding what to do. Wang Sheng expressed his understanding. If Sister Rosa didn't care about anything and just nodded in agreement, Wang Sheng would instead be worried. One had to know that Sister Rosa had spent more than 10 years in Carefree City. She shouldn't be familiar with many people in the sect. It was normal to see the situation first. With Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao here, Wang Sheng wasn't afraid of the women from Victorious Return Palace causing trouble. Right now, there wasn't anything important in the residence. Everyone just needed to stay here and slowly wait for the people to arrive. It was only a few days, so there was no need to be anxious. Mayer enthusiastically invited Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao to stay. She warmly welcomed them and enthusiastically inquired about Tantai Yao's eternal youth cultivation technique. She simply became a little fan who saw her idol. The environment of the Ho family estate had been transformed for almost a year. Wang Sheng and Mei Er didn't hesitate to throw in gold coins. Now, the Ho family estate was simply a cultivation treasure land. The spiritual energy was abundant, and the environment was elegant. Not to mention, the food, drinks, and clothes were all top quality. To put it bluntly, one day of cultivation in the Ho family estate was equivalent to 10 days of cultivation outside. Victoria's Return Palace was also once extravagant, but compared to Wang Sheng's Ho family estate, it simply wasn't on the same level. Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao thought that Everlasting Victory Ho family estate would at most be similar to the mansion in Carefree City and the residence of the palace master of Victoria's Return Palace. Now that they lived in the Ho family estate, they discovered that it was completely different. Just on the environment of the Ho family estate, Mayer had already thrown in 200 million gold coins. To put it bluntly, the overall cost of the Imperial Palace might not be comparable to Everlasting Victory Ho family estate. Not to mention the food that Wang Sheng, Mei Er, Sister Rosa, and Tantai Yao used. Even the daily consumption of the guards and servants could make some people from wealthy families feel ashamed to death. What made the two women even more surprised was that, not to mention the guards of the Ho family estate, even the servants were very hard-working in cultivation. When they had free time, they would practice a few times. Besides being surprised, Sister Rosa couldn't help but be curious. She asked the maidservant that was assigned to her and found out that there was a strange family rule in Everlasting Victory Ho family estate. All the servants who fell into the slave register, as long as they could cultivate to the 4th stage, the Ho family estate would release them from the slave register and turn them into a good man. The Ho family estate would hire them to continue working, but they would no longer be slaves. This rule made all the servants in the Ho family estate cultivate diligently. Chapter 742. It could be said that in the Marquis Chongqing's residence, other than the group of people that Mei Er brought and the guards that were later supported by the Laojun Temple, the rest of the people were all slaves from the 7th prince and the 4 important ministers. If it was other noble families, these people would basically have no hope in their lives and would be slaves for the rest of their lives. They would not be able to decide their own life and death, not to mention marriage. Even the children that they gave birth would be slaves from birth. They would be the so-called children of a house, forever a slave of the master's family. But Wang Sheng, after all, came from Earth. Accepting these people did not mean that he had to live according to the rules of this world. Moreover, these people no longer had any hope, so they might not do their best for the Marquis' residence. Wang Sheng gave them a hope to break away from slavery and also arouse their desire for life, especially when Wang Sheng provided such a good cultivation environment in the Marquis' residence. As long as they did not have a trash source spirit, they all worked hard to cultivate. The atmosphere of the entire Marquis' residence was endless and full of vitality. This atmosphere did not only affect the slaves, but even the spies that the emperor had sent to Wang Sheng's side were affected. There were some things that had to be reported, but the things that could be reported or not, basically everyone had a tacit understanding not to mention them. Especially the first person to become a good man, Steward Wang. After obtaining his identity as a good man, he cried in the Marquis' residence for the whole day. The next day, he was full of energy, managing the affairs of the Marquis' residence more and more carefully. Mayer also knew how to conduct herself. Under Wang Sheng's hint, Mayer bought a property for Steward Wang not far away, and also found a widow with a child to be his wife. Steward Wang was a eunuch and was destined to have no descendants, but the child brought by the widow changed his surname to Wang, which could be considered as inheriting Steward Wang's family name. Just this matter made Steward Wang directly sell his life to Wang Sheng. In the past, Wang Sheng had saved Steward Wang from the execution ground. It could be said that he had saved Steward Wang's life. Coupled with the deterrence of the imperial power, Steward Wang had managed the Marquis's residence obediently for his own life. But now, Steward Wang treated Wang Sheng as the master that he would be loyal to for the rest of his life. Even if he became a good man, he would still think of himself as a servant of the Marquis's residence. In addition, there were a few maids and servants who were about to reach the standard. Madame Mayer had also specially taken care of them. Once their cultivation reached the standard, she would arrange a few small managerial positions for them. Everyone was rubbing their fists and working hard to improve themselves, waiting for the day to come. Sister Rosa's maid was very envious of Steward Wang. She didn't have the chance in the past, but now she had already cultivated to the third stage realm in the manor. She believed that in a few more years' time, she would become a good man like Steward Wang. She would become a small managerial hire by the Marquis's residence and not a slave. In the luxurious guest room of the Marquis's residence, Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao slept for a night. The next day, they toured the Marquis's residence, accompanied by Mayer. Naturally, the two ladies also saw Wang Sheng's different cultivation room, the equipment in the middle, and the huge swimming pool. When they came to this side of the tour, Wang Sheng was swimming. Of course, the guards wouldn't stop Madame Mayer and the two distinguished guests. Hence, the three ladies saw Wang Sheng only wearing a pair of tight shorts, running back and forth in the swimming pool. When he was exercising, the lines of his muscles kept changing, making Mayer unable to tear her eyes away. However, since it was Mayer's words, Wang Sheng naturally didn't care and would definitely continue. However, since there were two guests, Sister Rosa and Tantai Yao, Wang Sheng couldn't be so rude. After swimming to the other end of the swimming pool, he quickly went ashore. A few maids wiped him clean and changed him into a set of clean clothes before he came in front of the three ladies. Marquis's cultivation method is really unique. Tantai Yao smiled and said, "It's somewhat similar to the eternal spring cultivation method that we cultivate." The eternal spring cultivation method was the Triumph Palace's youthful and beautifying cultivation method. Yesterday, Mayer took a long time to coax the name of this cultivation method out of him. However, the name made the ladies like it. Eternal spring, eternal spring. Wouldn't it be eternal youth? Moderate exercise is a good way to keep fit and beautify. Wang Sheng smiled and said, "The path of cultivation, different paths lead to the same destination. The principle is the same." Tantai Yao's eyes flashed. She didn't expect Wang Sheng to say this. Looking at the sparkling water surface of the swimming pool, she suddenly said, "I also want to borrow Marquis's equipment to practice. I wonder if Marquis will allow it?" "You can come anytime." Wang Sheng smiled and said, "How big of a deal was this?" He just thought that he opened a gym and a beautiful lady came over to use the equipment. How could he refuse? These things can beautify and preserve one's youthful appearance. Mayer was also interested and immediately said, "I want it too." With the mischievous Mayer, what else could Wang Sheng say? Seeing Mayer excitedly rush to the weight-bearing suit that Wang Sheng used for weight training and reach out to pull it up, but the weight-bearing suit didn't move at all, Wang Sheng couldn't help but laugh. Seeing Mayer pursing her mouth to express her dissatisfaction, Wang Sheng could only say to the three ladies, "These equipment need to be redesigned. I will find a few grandmasters to make a few suitable ones." Wang Sheng's equipment all required a few tons of force to use. How could it be possible for three delicate beauties? Wang Sheng could only find Old Tai and the others to build a set of gym equipment on Earth for them to use. Now it seemed that the only exercise that the three ladies could do was the parallel bars and swimming. "The weather is hot. You could try swimming," Wang Sheng kindly suggested. He glanced at the three women's elegant dresses and imagined their perfect bodies. He couldn't help but say, "Your dresses aren't suitable either. After we settle down the people from the three countries, I'll design a few sports and swimming outfits for you." Hearing Wang Sheng's words, Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa didn't feel anything, but Mayer already showed a surprised look. Wang Sheng said that he would personally design a few sports and swimming clothes. It must be something good that would make people's eyes light up. Maybe Runzi workshop could be expanded on a large scale again. As everyone waited quietly, the Three Kingdoms escorting team finally arrived at the capital. As soon as they arrived in the capital, the troops were divided into two groups. One group escorted a large number of carriages and boxes straight to the imperial city, while the other group brought a large group of women wearing cloaks and veils and majestically went straight to the Chongqingho mansion. Mayor had already cleared out a place not far from the Marquis Manor that had just been raided and given to the Marquis Manor. Once the people arrived, they were all sent to this manor to settle down. Wang Sheng didn't show up. Mayor, Sister Rosa, and Tantai Yao went together to meet the beautiful experts sent by the Three Kingdoms. Chapter 743. Chongqing Marquis Manor was big enough and could accommodate so many beauties and experts. However, Mayor still insisted on putting them outside in the manor that already belonged to Wang Sheng. In the end, whether these women were trustworthy or not was up to Mayor to judge. The mansion was also large enough to accommodate more than 600 beautiful women. Previously, enough rooms had been vacated and enough servants had been assigned. All that was left was to receive the new arrivals. Each of the three countries sent a representative to meet with Wang Sheng and speak a lot of good words to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng also thanked the three countries for helping him vent his anger, as well as the gifts they sent. The host and guests were all smiles, and the atmosphere was harmonious. Mayor and the two women went over in the afternoon, but it wasn't until the next night that Mayor and the two women returned to Chongqingho's mansion. When they returned, Mayor's face was full of smiles, and she looked very happy. At least half of them are acquainted with Big Sister Tantai, and they're all willing to listen to her. Mayor was happy because of this. Originally, Tantai Yao's youthful cultivation method was enough to make Mayor want to curry favor with her. Now that more than 200 women from the three countries knew Tantai Yao and were willing to listen to her, it naturally made Mayor overjoyed. They used to be my disciples, Tantai Yao sighed. Her face wasn't as happy as Mayor's. Instead, it was full of sorrow. Most of them were disciples who left the hidden hall after Victorious Return was established. Sister Rose's expression wasn't good either. Wang Sheng could understand why they were so sad at a glance. I thought they were the same as the previous disciples, who went out to find a good family to exchange for a good income for Victorious Return Palace and find a good home for themselves. Tantai Yao lowered her head. She was so sad that she was on the verge of crying. I didn't expect that they didn't leave Victorious Return at all. Instead, they were treated as private pets by the palace lord and the elders. Victorious Return's income had greatly increased after the enfeoffment. Naturally, there was no need to exchange these women for gold. For Victorious Return Nation, the several 100,000 gold coins each person could bring back was no longer an indispensable source of income. The palace master and elders of Victorious Return Palace immediately took a liking to these peerless beauties nurtured by their own sex, dividing them up one by one. From monarchs to important ministers, there were people from every family. Wang Sheng had seen the ugliness of human nature. In the context of war, cannibalism had even happened, so it was not surprising. However, when a sect became rich and powerful, these people didn't arrange a better life for their disciples. Instead, they forcibly occupied them. It could only be said that these people were all beasts. If Victorious Return Palace doesn't have to worry about gold coins, then why would they try to take over the Smooth Z workshop? Wang Sheng couldn't understand this point, so he angrily asked. They are short of gold coins, but they don't want to give away the disciples that they have occupied. Tantai Yao sneered and said, Do they really think that my disciples are easy to bully? As long as they were involved, how could they escape? They couldn't stop even if they wanted to. Give them a few more years. If there are other women in the harem of Victorious Return Palace and those important ministers, I'll change my surname to yours. In other words, the Smooth Z workshop isn't what Victorious Return Palace wants, right? Wang Sheng had already understood the meaning of Tantai Yao's words. Those bastards forcibly occupied the disciples of the Hidden Hall, But the disciples of the hidden hall were so outstanding that they lost their sense of direction and were led by the nose. Afterwards, they sent people to attack the Smooth Z workshop. It's just that a few disciples at different times and places said that they liked the Smooth Z workshop's cosmetics. Tantai Yao didn't admit nor deny it. She simply explained what had happened. They wanted to please the beauties themselves. Who can they blame? In this world, is there any woman who doesn't like the Smooth Z workshop's cosmetics? That's true. Wang Xing nodded. They courted death themselves. Who can they blame? No one forced them to throw away their lives. If they want to blame someone, they can only blame themselves. Don't you think they're femme fatale? Tantai Yao was surprised. She originally thought Wang Sheng would vent his anger on these female disciples. She didn't expect him to say such words. Femme fatale? Wang Sheng sneered. What kind of hero are you? You don't take responsibility for your own actions. Yet, you push the root of the problem to women? Did Victoria's Return Palace have such a great reputation in the past? They just so. Although Tantai Yao herself was once a member of Victoria's Return Palace, she didn't feel the slightest bit of resentment or dissatisfaction when she heard Wang Sheng's words. Instead, her face was filled with gratitude for being understood. Tears even seeped out from the corner of her eyes. Exactly. Mayor continued Wang Sheng's words. If you do something wrong, you should admit it yourself. What's the point of pushing the blame to a few powerless women? They're all pitiful people. Wang Sheng also let out a long sigh. He turned to Mayor and asked, Are they all settled? Since you're here, don't let them suffer. They're all settled. Mayor quickly nodded her head. Those sisters suffered a lot on the way. The guys who escorted them didn't even give them enough to eat. They just kept on rushing, and all of them were exhausted and hungry. After wolfing down their food and drinking, they've already arranged for them to sleep. Wang Sheng nodded, indicating that he understood. He then asked, A small portion of them are Tantai Yao's disciples. What about the other half? The other half are rogue cultivators who were originally part of Victoria's Return's territory. After Victoria's Return was established, they wantonly recruited experts and forcibly recruited them into the army. Mayor didn't answer. Instead, it was Rosa who answered. After saying this, Rosa also let out a sigh. Those guys aren't good at anything else, but they have an extremely good eye for beautiful women. They put the prettiest ones into the palace, harem, and the homes of important ministers. They've harmed many people. In other words, they're actually all experts with combat strength. Wang Xing no longer cared about the bullshit matters of Victoria's Return's upper echelons. He only picked out the part he was most concerned about. Yes, Rosa nodded. However, even in death, those guys couldn't believe it. When the experts of the three kingdoms attacked, not a single one of them took action. They could only watch helplessly as they were beheaded. I bet they wouldn't be able to close their eyes even in death. Yes, they committed all sorts of evil and died with everlasting regret. They deserved it. Wang Sheng casually gave this evaluation to those guys, then asked, How are those experts now? It wasn't easy to deal with the three kingdoms. Killing them would be a waste of resources, but letting them go would only bring disaster. That's why they threw the burden to you. Sister Rosa spoke of the matter hatefully. We were afraid they would resist on the road, so we tied them up and sent them here. They suffered quite a bit. Some of their injuries haven't even healed yet. The madam has already arranged for the imperial physicians to treat them. Their foundations are very good, so they'll recover in a few days. Chapter 744. People in the capital and on the streets could only see that the women in the procession were all wearing cloaks and veils. Who would know that under the cloaks, these women were all tied up? Coming all the way from Victoria's Return, these women had suffered a lot from being tied up for more than half a month. Not only were their food and drink restricted, there were also many places that were inconvenient for them. Fortunately, Wang Xing didn't go over immediately. Otherwise, what he would see wouldn't be beautiful women, but a group of smelly and unkempt women. If they didn't wash and put on makeup for half a month, no matter how smelly they were, even the most beautiful women would look like beggars. Being seen in such a sorry state by a strange man Regardless of whether they were beautiful or not, these women would hate the man to death. Wang Sheng didn't go over, but let the three women go. This was giving them enough face. Having a group of experts was also quite good. If all 600 of them were seductive beauties, Wang Sheng feared that the only thing he could do was send them far away. The destruction of Victorious Return was also a result of these women's meticulous planning. What kind of concept was it to be able to charm the entire upper echelons of Victorious Return Palace? This was also a good thing. With Sister Rosa and her disciples suppressing this group of vixens, these beautiful women basically had no intention of avenging those bastards for Victorious Return Palace. They definitely wouldn't be able to return to Victorious Return. Wang Sheng was confident that he could make arrangements for these people. After resting for a night, the three women once again went to the large courtyard of the king's mansion. More than 600 beautiful women, some with injuries, some who had caught a cold on the road, all had to be taken care of. This was what Wang Sheng said. He wanted to give them as much of a sense of home as possible. Just letting these women rest and recuperate took a full 5 days. Finally, they recovered their spirits, even if their injuries were more serious. With the support of the powerful medicinal pills of Ho Fu, they were able to stabilize their injuries and quickly recover. Most importantly, the women who had been unkempt for more than 10 to 20 days finally had the mood to freshen up and dress themselves up. They dressed themselves up beautifully and were ready to meet people. It was only on the 7th day that Wang Sheng arrived at the prince's mansion. Wang Sheng met all the women in the largest central hall of the Wang mansion. More than 600 people filled the spacious courtyard to the brim. This was the first time Wang Sheng felt that there were so many beautiful women around him. Beautiful women of all kinds of styles and temperaments stood in the courtyard, chattering with each other. Although the voice was soft, Wang Sheng's ears were sharp. Even if one of the women breathed a little more, Wang Sheng could hear it clearly. In this prince's mansion, all the servants were women. The guards were all female, and the servants were all maids. There were no servants, and the servants only did some rough work in the outer courtyard, completely listening to the commands of the maids inside. It could be said that within these few days, these female experts had only seen women and had never seen a man. Of course, such an arrangement made these pitiful women feel a little better. After all, they left their hometown thousands of miles away and came to the unfamiliar capital city. They even encountered such inhuman torture along the way. It was not easy for them to reach their destination. If their ugly state was seen by those hateful, stinky men, wouldn't they be ashamed and resentful? Fortunately, the women immediately calmed down when they saw Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa. Mayer was also busy greeting them, and she didn't despise them at all. Only then did the women slowly settle down. Gathering everyone together was to let them meet the world-famous Chongqing Marquis, Wang Sheng, who was also their future master. The women didn't know what their fate would be in the future. Each of them gathered in the courtyard with a perturbed mind. Seeing the tall Wang Sheng appear, the women who were uneasy just now seemed to be suddenly blown by a warm breeze. The nervousness in their hearts instantly disappeared without a trace. No one knew that Wang Sheng just used the confrontation formula to calm everyone down a lot. "I'm Wang Sheng." Wang Sheng stood on a chair. He was so high up that he could see everyone. Everyone could also see him. Just as he finished this sentence, there was a sudden shout from the crowd, not far from Wang Sheng. "Die, thief!" Two red silhouettes flew out from the crowd like phantoms from two different directions. Both of them charged toward Wang Sheng. The two women each held a short sword in their hands. Their faces were full of murderous intent, as if they had an irreconcilable hatred with Wang Sheng. No one knew where they hid their short swords. They actually went through more than half a month of being tied up and marching, and there were 6 to 7 days of recuperation, and they actually didn't find it. They hid it very well. The two women in red stood at a position where one was less than 10 steps away from Wang Sheng, and the other was a little further, about 15 to 16 steps. Although they launched at the same time, they didn't arrive at the same time. All the women were dumbfounded by the sudden turn of events. Before anyone could react, the closest woman had already rushed to Wang Sheng's side. Wang Sheng, on the other hand, seemed to have long since known that something like this would happen. There wasn't the slightest trace of surprise on his face. In fact, he didn't even plan to get down from his chair, waiting for the two women to pounce on him. With a stretch of his hand, Wang Sheng accurately caught the first woman's short sword. Using an exquisite taiji technique, he easily avoided the sharp edge of the short sword and seized the opportunity to grab hold of the blade. With a flick of his wrist, the short sword trembled violently. The woman in the air was unable to maintain her grip on the short sword, and her hand involuntarily let go of the hilt. Holding onto the blade, Wang Sheng swept the short sword horizontally and lightly pressed it against the woman's shoulder. With a flick of his arm, the woman in red fell to the ground like a bullet. As soon as the woman hit the ground, an invisible force suddenly came from her shoulder, and her body immediately fell to the ground. The surrounding female experts, who were also from the Victorious Return Kingdom, saw the situation and went forward to hold down the woman in red without saying a word. They couldn't let her get up again and hurt Master Ho. At this moment, another woman had just pounced in front of Tantai Yao. It couldn't be helped. Tantai Yao happened to be standing in this position. If she wanted to attack Wang Sheng, she had to go through Tantai Yao. In the face of such a situation, Tantai Yao could only sigh softly. She reached out and grabbed the woman in red's shoulder. With just a little force, the second woman in red was thrown to the ground. The force was so great that the short sword in the woman's hand had already flown out of her hand when she landed on the ground. No one knew where it flew to. Similarly, a few female experts came over and quickly restrained the woman. The woman's flying short sword was also caught by a female expert in that direction. She slowly walked to the front of Wang Sheng, pointed the tip of the sword at herself, and extended the hilt towards Wang Sheng. At this moment, the second woman in red looked at Tantai Yao with a look of disbelief. Wasn't Tantai Yao the hall master of the Hidden Hall? How could she be unable to withstand it with just one hand? Chapter 745. It wasn't just the second red-robed woman who was shocked. Almost everyone who saw that scene was shocked. Among the women present, almost all of them were related to Triumph Palace. A small half of them cultivated this kind of cultivation method, while the rest of them had come into contact with those who cultivated the Eternal Spring Mantra. Moreover, along the way, how could they not know what kind of cultivation method the Eternal Spring Mantra was? It was because everyone knew about the Eternal Spring Mantra that was why so many of them were shocked. One must know that the second red-robed woman was at least in the 7th stage realm. Although she had just entered the 7th stage realm not too long ago, but it was a solid advancement through battles. Tantai Yao was the hall master of the Hidden Hall who specialized in the Eternal Spring Mantra. How could she possibly take down a 7th stage realm expert with just one hand? But apparently this wasn't a good time to get to the bottom of the matter. While everyone was shocked, they all looked towards Wang Sheng. They wanted to see how Changxing Marquis Wang Sheng would deal with these two women. The two red-robed women had already been caught together, and both of them were struggling and twisting intensely. But under the control of several women who had similar cultivations, other than twisting, the two women had no other way to make any other movements. Every injustice has its perpetrator. Every debt has its debtor. Wang Sheng walked in front of the two women and totally didn't guard against those female experts around them. He only said to the two women, "Looking for me. Have you found the wrong person? Dog thief. Other than you, who else could it be?" The two women seemed to have understood that they had no chance of survival as they started scolding loudly. "I can understand." Wang Sheng nodded his head and spoke in a gentle manner. "You're the one who has been forcibly taken by someone else, but you feel that a night of husband and wife means 100 days of grace, and 100 days of being husband and wife is as deep as the sea. Your husband must have been killed, so you want to kill me to take revenge. But I would like to ask, I'm doing business properly. On what basis did someone come knocking on my door to snatch me away for no reason, and I'm not allowed to resist? You're sitting on a mountain of gold, but you can't defend it, so who can you blame?" The two red-robed women no longer struggled, and one of them laughed sinisterly at Wang Sheng. "If you want to blame someone, you can only blame yourself for being incompetent. That makes sense. Wang Sheng calmly asked the other party, but I defended it, so those of you who didn't manage to snatch it have to die. Isn't that right? The two red-clothed women were at a loss for words. In truth, if they really wanted to debate Wang Sheng's first question, Victorious Return wouldn't be able to make any sense. However, the two women insisted on pestering him with the principle of the law of the jungle. Wang Sheng also used the same principle to retaliate. The other party really did not have the eloquence to be able to make Wang Sheng speechless. On the contrary, he was the one who had nothing to say. Is there anyone among you who has the same idea? Wang Sheng raised his voice and shouted at all the women present. If there is, step forward. I promise with my status as the Marquis that I will not make things difficult for you. There were more than 600 women, but not a single one stood out. Everyone had almost the same experience. How many of them would really feel that they should take revenge for the man who had forcibly taken them? Only these two idiots would do such a thing. Do you think we're all idiots? The second woman in red sneered. You'll never know who will bear a grudge against you. One day, someone will take your life. The two of you don't even have the courage to live for yourselves. I pity you. Wang Sheng's voice mercilessly drilled into the other party's ears and heart. You were coerced, raped, and abused, yet you didn't dare to resist. You even obeyed the man who bullied and humiliated you. Not only are you unhappy with his death, you even want to take revenge for him. You're destined to be a slave that will be trampled underfoot into the grave. People like you are simply a disgrace. Look at the sisters around you. Have they ever given up on resisting for even a moment? Wang Sheng didn't hide his disdainful gaze and voice. Even if they can't win, they will still struggle in the dark, do their best to resist, and wait for an opportunity. You compare yourselves to them. Are you even worthy? These words made the surrounding women's eyes turn red. They had suffered a lot from being coerced and raped all these years. Finally, someone clearly said it, and someone could understand. As for the two women in red, how would they dare to look at Wang Sheng? Apart from the hatred in their eyes, they didn't dare to raise their heads again. The gazes of the surrounding women made them feel ashamed. I said I won't make things difficult for you, so I won't. Wang Sheng shook his head and said, they're just two shells without souls. Send them out of the residence and let them go wherever they like. After speaking, Wang Sheng walked back to the chair in the central hall and sat down, quietly waiting for the women to send them away. Tantai Yao looked at Wang Sheng with some surprise. She looked down at the two women in red who were being controlled and gave Rosa a look. Rosa immediately understood. She took a few steps forward and walked to the first woman in red. She slowly squatted down and said to her, Master Ho is magnanimous and let you out of the residence. However, let me tell you, once you leave this residence, there will only be one result. The people of the Tang, Xia, and Feng kingdoms will capture you again. Without the protection of Master Ho, you will only beg for death. Poochie, a soft sound was heard. The woman in red's face suddenly showed an expression of pain and disbelief. She stared blankly at Rosa. However, Rosa was not moved at all. She just stabbed the dagger that belonged to the woman in red deeper and said, You have let down so many of us sisters who have suffered all these years. Since you can't let go of your dead husband, then I will personally send you to see him, so that you won't have to go out and suffer again. After speaking, Rosa suddenly pulled out the dagger. The woman in red's blood immediately sprayed all over Rosa. However, Rosa did not dodge at all. She just stared at the woman in red's eyes until the woman in red's unwilling gaze slowly dissipated. During the whole process, the female experts who were holding down the woman in red didn't relax at all. It seemed that everyone was in the same mood. Tantai Yao slowly walked to the second woman in red. She stood in the same place and looked down at the woman. She shook her head coldly and said, Did you hear it? Rest assured and be on your way. Pa! Tantai Yao's palm heavily slapped the head of the woman in red. The woman in red didn't even struggle at all. Her body softly drooped down. Seeing this scene, Wang Sheng did not change his expression. However, Mei Er's eyes were full of smiles. Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa's actions were like two proof of allegiance. They firmly tied them to Wang Sheng. This made Mayer feel more at ease. Chapter 746. Lord Marquis, can I ask you to leave for a moment? I'll discuss it with my sisters. After dealing with the two red-clothed women who attacked Wang Sheng, Tantai Yao asked Wang Sheng apologetically. Wang Sheng didn't say anything else. He got up and smiled at Tantai Yao and Rosa. He turned around and left the central hall with Mayer, leaving behind a courtyard full of beauties and two corpses. Their first meeting wasn't a happy one. They fought, and two people died. In any case, it wasn't a happy one. Wang Sheng didn't care, but Mayer was about to explode. These ungrateful people. Lord Marquis clearly gave them a chance to live, but they actually bite the hand that feeds them. The two directly returned to the Marquis's mansion. It wasn't far, just a walk away. However, Mayer was a little angry. She was so furious that she almost gave the order to capture all the women in the courtyard of the prince's mansion and interrogate them. Is this worth getting angry over? Wang Sheng was more open-minded than Mayer. From Earth to this soul origin world, no one was liked by everyone. It was even more impossible for Wang Sheng to be liked by everyone. Wang Sheng understood this point, so he never held the thought of everyone loving him. Even among the slaves, there might be some who hated him, not to mention the people from Victorious Return. The entire Victorious Return was destroyed because of Wang Sheng. How could they not hate him, and then wait for an opportunity to take revenge? Among the more than 600 people, Wang Sheng thought there would be at least 10 who wanted to kill him. However, when he arrived at the scene, Wang Sheng's keen perception only discovered 2. This already made Wang Sheng surprised. In the courtyard of the Marquis's mansion, Wang Sheng really didn't plan to kill the 2 women. There was no need at all. Just as Sister Rosa had said, as long as they were chased out, the people of the 3 kingdoms would naturally know what to do. The 2 of them would definitely end up in a situation where they could neither live nor die. Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa's actions surprised Wang Sheng. He killed the 2 women decisively to gain the favor of Wang Sheng and Mayer. At the same time, he suppressed those women. He just didn't know what they would talk about next and what the outcome would be. Wang Sheng didn't have much expectations for Sister Rosa, but Tantai Yao seemed to be someone who could bring him surprises. Another day passed as they waited. Wang Sheng cultivated and slept peacefully. He only saw Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa the next morning. It was still Mayer and Wang Sheng together. Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa spent the entire day and night with those women. He didn't know what they were talking about. Wang Sheng didn't eavesdrop on their conversation because he wanted to test Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa's ability. He was waiting for Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa to give him an answer. Marquis, can I ask you a question? Tantai Yao didn't immediately explain the current situation. Instead, she asked Wang Sheng, does the rule of the Marquis's mansion still apply? Which rule? Wang Sheng asked puzzledly. If the servants in the mansion reach the 4th stage, they can release them and leave with the identity of a lover. Tantai Yao asked calmly. They can continue to work with the Marquis's mansion as an employer, or they can leave at any time. Yes. Wang Sheng nodded without hesitation. This rule was set by Wang Sheng himself. Of course, it was valid. Mayer stared with her beautiful big eyes and questioned, what are you trying to do? You want to leave before entering the Marquis's mansion? He didn't expect Tantai Yao's first question to be this. Could it be that they didn't want to stay here? The beauties that were sent over were all experts. Regardless of their combat power, their cultivation was far beyond the 4th stage, according to the cultivation realm. In other words, once these people entered the Marquis's mansion, they should be released according to the rules of the Marquis's mansion, and then they can leave at will. If Marquis still recognizes the debt, then according to Marquis's rules, they can indeed be released. Tantai Yao smiled at Wang Sheng and said, Marquis, in this case, do you also recognize the rule? Yes. Wang Sheng answered affirmatively again. Mayer was so anxious that she was about to stomp her feet. However, Wang Sheng grabbed her little hand and held it gently. Mayer immediately became obedient and leaned against Wang Sheng's side without saying a word. I know that Marquis is magnanimous. Tantai Yao smiled and gave Wang Sheng a thumbs up. That's why I announced this rule of the Marquis' residence in front of everyone yesterday and let them choose for themselves. Mayor almost jumped up again. Let those women choose for themselves. Please, they were gifts given to Wang Sheng by others, okay? Which master didn't look at their gifts carefully and thought that the gifts weren't theirs? Who could accept it? If they are smart, they should immediately take the opportunity to get the Marquis' mansion to release them. Wang Sheng suppressed Mayor again and said slowly. Mayor was held back by Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng felt a warmth from his hand and immediately calmed her anger. She listened carefully to Wang Sheng's words and pondered in her heart. After Wang Sheng finished speaking, he suddenly asked curiously, they won't suddenly become stupid and not grasp such a good opportunity, right? There won't be another shop like this after this. Hearing Wang Sheng's analogy, Tantai Yao immediately covered her mouth and laughed. Sister Rosa also laughed involuntarily. Fortunately, the people from the three kingdoms are smart. So, everyone unanimously decided to ask Marquis to release them according to the rules of the Marquis' mansion. After Tantai Yao finished laughing, she spoke to Wang Sheng seriously. That's easy. Wang Sheng nodded and immediately instructed Mayor. Send someone to inform the Yamen today and ask them to send some reliable people to the residence to prepare the documents for releasing them. Although Mayor was very unwilling, she would definitely listen to Wang Sheng's instructions. She stood up and pulled Sister Rosa to do it without any hesitation. Wang Sheng was like the sun at noon now. Not to mention asking the Yamen to send a few people to the residence. Even if he asked their chief official to do it personally, they wouldn't dare to say anything. Of course, Tantai Yao and Sister Rosa understood that this was Wang Sheng's way of protecting them. He knew that those women were beautiful and it would be troublesome to bring them to the Yamen, so he specially took care of their reputation. Marquis is really bold. Tantai Yao gave a thumbs up to Wang Sheng again. They couldn't help but be impressed. More than 600 beauties were Wang Sheng's slaves. He could do whatever he wanted with them. However, Wang Sheng released them without blinking his eyes. Just this broad-mindedness wasn't something an ordinary person could do. In addition, it also indirectly showed that Wang Sheng didn't have any ill intentions towards them and was definitely not a lecherous person. It's a little embarrassing to say it. Tantai Yao said it was embarrassing, but she still said it. After releasing them, everyone still wants to continue working with Marquis. Chapter 747. Cooperation. Wang Sheng laughed involuntarily. All right, what kind of cooperation? Tantai Yao's face also turned red from Wang Sheng's laughter. The proposal of cooperation was actually made by her, but it was also the inevitable choice of those beauties. The only difference was that they used to be Wang Sheng's slaves, but now they were in Wang Sheng's home mansion as collaborators. It wasn't a problem to let those beauties go, and Wang Sheng didn't like slaves. But the problem was if these beauties became commoners, then what? Could they still return to Victorious Return? Victorious Return was gone. Once they returned to their familiar places, there was no doubt that they would be captured by the Tang Kingdom, Xia Kingdom, and Feng Kingdom again. Either they would be sent back to Wang Sheng as gifts, or they would be forcibly occupied, and their status would be no different from when they were in Victorious Return. In this world, could it be that only the nobles and ministers of Victorious Return were lecherous? Which place was different from a man? It was only in front of Wang Sheng that Wang Sheng didn't act so impulsively. But Wang Sheng didn't lack women by his side. Madame Mayor was one of them, and it was said that she even had a child in Carefree City. Rather than becoming the exclusive property of another man and continuing to live the kind of life that they did not want, then why should they leave the Marquis' residence? Wang Sheng put everyone in good hands. At least in this aspect, he was much better than those stinky men they had met before. In a situation where there was no other choice, cooperating with Wang Sheng was obviously a reason for Wang Sheng to laugh. Wang Sheng also knew that they didn't have much of a choice, so he generously put them in good hands. But in the end, they still had to act according to Wang Sheng's mood. You can give them a chance, or you can give me a chance. Tantai didn't hide her desire to take care of her female disciples. Let me and my disciples live a peaceful life. Wang Sheng believed that Tantai Yao wasn't an ambitious person. She was worlds apart from Song Yin. Right now, Song Yin controlled the Song Nation from the shadows. She was clearly the Song Nation's duke, holding a high position and authority. She managed the Song Nation to flourish, something that Tantai Yao could not compare to. Tantai Yao seemed to only want a peaceful life. If it wasn't for these female disciples, Wang Sheng could totally give it to her without any price. It was because she was elder sister Rose's master. But now, with the addition of the more than 200 female disciples, it was a different matter. There was no reason for Wang Sheng to raise more than 200 such beauties for no reason. What's in it for me? Wang Sheng didn't feel soft-hearted because of Tantai Yao's delicate beauty, nor did he forget himself because of so many delicate beauties. Instead, he asked calmly, "Besides your disciples, what about the rest of the women?" Everyone came together, so they are willing to advance and retreat with us. Tantai Yao first replied to Wang Sheng's second question. Actually, everyone's experience is similar. The only difference is the cultivation method we cultivate. What's the difference if we really go out? When talking about the future of those women, Tantai Yao became mournful. Her face naturally emitted a pitiful aura, making people want to quickly comfort her. They were afraid that if they spoke louder, they would be rude to the beauty. However, that kind of pitiful aura wouldn't make people want to play with her. It was the best product that could stimulate a man's desire to protect her. You still haven't answered my question. Unfortunately, Tantai Yao's trick was almost useless in front of Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng just smiled and spoiled the mood by asking his first question, "What's in it for me?" Tantai Yao raised her head with a smile on her face. She seemed to be very satisfied with Wang Sheng's performance. Whereas the melancholy in melancholy. The hall master of the Merit Hall of Triumph Palace was indeed worthy of her reputation. As long as you nod, all of us are willing to become your women. Tantai Yao said this without blushing. We will build a kingdom for you. You can come and go whenever you want. You could do whatever you want. I guarantee that you will have the greatest enjoyment in this world. It sounds like I'm taking advantage of you. Wang Sheng's face was full of smiles. He was so happy that he almost couldn't find the north. Are you sure you are willing to pay such a price? I'm sure. Tantai Yao nodded seriously and replied, "Including you?" Wang Sheng's face had a playful smile as he looked at Tantai Yao and asked, "This?" Tantai Yao hesitated. Her face showed an expression of struggle. After a while, she finally made a decision and replied, "Including me." After saying this, it seemed that the last trace of strength in Tantai Yao's body had been sucked out. Her whole body collapsed to the ground. That kind of grief and the willingness to sacrifice for her disciple, when combined together, exuded an amazing charm. As long as Wang Sheng stretched out his hand, she was willing to throw herself into Wang Sheng's arms. "Sister Tantai, you seem to have forgotten one thing." Wang Sheng's voice sounded calmly. "If I don't release them, they will still be mine. I can still come and go whenever I want. I can also do whatever I want. Isn't it superfluous for you to take something that belongs to me in exchange for my protection?" "It's not the same." Tantai Yao shook her head seriously and said, "The feeling of being a slave is completely different from the feeling of cooperating with you as an equal. At least it allows us to retain our dignity. If we are slaves, you can only get our bodies and nothing else." "Sister Tantai, in your heart, am I a lecher?" Wang Sheng asked again with a smile. "Is Wang Sheng a lecher?" "Of course." Tantai Yao shook her head. "How is that possible?" Although Mei was willing to stay by Wang Sheng's side, with Tantai Yao's eyesight, she could still see that Mei was still a virgin. Mei was such an enchanting beauty. If it was a lecherous man, how could he have left Mei intact? If it was said that Wang Sheng didn't touch Mei because of her natural charm, then everyone said that Aki in the Land of Despair was Wang Sheng's woman. However, Tantai Yao had seen Aki and lived with her for a few days. She was clearly a virgin. The lecher Wang Sheng's women were all virgin? How was that possible? What if some of us are willing to use the heaven and earth reversal method to strengthen the marquis's cultivation? Seeing that Wang Sheng wasn't moved, Tan Tai Yao took out another trump card that she had already thought of. She persuaded Wang Sheng. Not only can Marquis marry a beauty, but you can also increase your cultivation, killing two birds with one stone. How about it? Chapter 748. The method of heaven and earth reversal was actually the technique that Song Yin and Wang Sheng used to increase the speed of Wang Sheng's cultivation when they performed the ceremony of the Duke of Zhou. Every major family had this kind of technique, and Triumph Palace was no exception. Tan Tai Yao and some women also put in a lot of effort. They would rather damage the foundation of their cultivation in order to reach such an agreement with Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng didn't even know what Tan Tai Yao was doing. Let's put it this way, Sister Tan Tai. Wang Sheng expressed his meaning very clearly. I personally think that going to bed isn't just about the other party being beautiful. Without feelings, it's just a tool to satisfy one's lust. I don't want to look down on you, and I also don't want you to look down on yourself and humiliate yourself. Do you understand? How could Tan Tai Yao not understand when Wang Sheng said it so clearly? On one hand, Tan Tai Yao was very grateful for Wang Sheng's last sentence of not wanting you to look down on yourself and humiliate yourself. If it were someone else, they would have already agreed and couldn't wait to achieve the good thing after hearing this condition. Only Wang Sheng would say this to her. Even the higher-ups of Triumph Palace didn't say similar words. On the other hand, Tan Tai Yao smiled bitterly. Wang Sheng didn't agree to such conditions. It seemed that she could only come up with conditions that were more in line with Wang Sheng's wishes. But from the bottom of her heart, Tan Tai Yao was willing to come up with more harsh conditions to repay Wang Sheng's kindness. It was because Wang Sheng never looked at them with the eyes of ordinary people and humiliated them. Then, how about I help you build another secret lair? Tan Tai Yao was really happy this time, even if Wang Sheng forced her to reveal her last card. A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. We will help you build another base that others can't even think of. How about it? A cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. You can't put all your eggs in one basket. This was something Wang Sheng had already memorized when he was training on Earth. When choosing a sniping position, it was impossible to choose only one. When choosing an escape route, it was impossible to prepare only one plan. As the saying goes, a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows. All of you are here, and others can see through you at a glance. Why do you still say that a cunning rabbit has 3 burrows? Wang Sheng couldn't help but laugh and asked Tan Tai Yao. In the eyes of others, this is naturally a group of beautiful vases raised by the Marquis. Tan Tai Yao also laughed. But what if each of these vases can reach my cultivation realm in a short period of time? Wang Sheng's gaze sharpened. Although Tan Tai Yao's combat power was still lacking, her cultivation realm was far beyond Wang Sheng's reach. 9th stage, intermediate realm, legendary realm expert. If every single woman here could become such an expert, then all those who looked down on this place would pay the price of lifelong regret for their short-sightedness. There are so many legendary experts. How can they not be seen through? Wang Sheng shook his head. Tan Tai Yao was probably thinking too simply. How could a legend rank expert be an ordinary person? Needless to say, there were more than 10 legend rank experts gathered in the capital. The royal family would definitely be so nervous that they wouldn't be able to sleep. This was also the reason why Wang Sheng had gathered more than 10 great grandmasters. But there were always some chess pieces placed by the emperor to serve them. It was for the emperor to see and reassure him. Marquis, the Laojun temple that you cultivate can see through my cultivation at a glance. How many people in the Laojun temple have successfully cultivated it? Tan Tai Yao suddenly asked Wang Sheng a different question. This matter involved the Laojun temple, but it was also related to Tan Tai Yao's cultivation. It wasn't that Tan Tai Yao was deliberately probing the Laojun temple. In this regard, Wang Sheng wasn't vigilant to the point of being suspicious. He thought carefully and answered very seriously. Including me, there shouldn't be more than 10 people. 9 of them are the core experts of the Laojun Temple. Old Taoist Ling Su must have cultivated it to a certain level. Qingchen and Qingling should also have a certain realm. The Grand Temple Master was also an expert. The others were old Taoist priests of the Qing generation. Only old Taoist Ling Su could cultivate to the realm of the Xing character secret. Wang Sheng wasn't sure about the others. This was also a small warning to Tantai Yao. He didn't want her to think that no one could see through her disguise and make a mistake due to carelessness. What about the people from the royal family? Tantai Yao asked again. Wang Sheng thought about it and shook his head. The people from the royal family shouldn't have discovered it. Otherwise, when Tantai Yao entered the city, there would definitely be people watching. Everyone thought that she was the hidden hall master of Triumph Palace. They all knew that she cultivated a youthful technique, so they didn't care about her at all. In terms of worry, the emperor was more worried that Wang Sheng would fall for the beauty trap than that there was an expert in the legendary realm by his side. With these two questions, Wang Sheng also understood what Tantai Yao meant. Since other than some experts of the Laojun Temple, even the royal family couldn't see through it. Who would think that Wang Sheng had more than 600 experts in the legendary realm under his nose? Those women who aren't disciples of the Hidden Hall can also improve their cultivation? Wang Sheng asked in disbelief. As long as they learn the Yongchun cultivation technique. Tantai Yao replied quickly. If they learn the Yongchun cultivation technique, their original cultivation realm will not change, but their combat power will decline. When they reach my realm, their previous combat experience can still be used. They might even be more powerful than me. How long will it take for them to reach a realm? Wang Sheng was finally a little tempted. If there was a group of such people in the capital, if something happened to him in the future, Mei Er's safety could be guaranteed. He just didn't know how long it would take to create a group of such experts. It depends on how much Marquis is willing to invest, as well as their aptitude and spirit grade. Tantai Yao finally revealed a smile on her face and quickly replied to Wang Sheng. If Marquis is willing to invest, then the only restriction is the grade of their spirit. Every one of them is willing to learn the Yongchun cultivation technique. But Marquis can rest assured that the spirit grade of these experts isn't low. The worst one is at least 8 stars. Those stinky men of Triumph Palace train them as personal guards, so their aptitude is excellent. These 8-star spirit sisters will continue to practice their original cultivation technique and temporarily act as our guards. This way, the people outside won't find it strange. With beauties and guards, they will only think that we are a group of people raised by Marquis. What I need to pay? Wang Sheng nodded and began to seriously consider the cooperation with Tantai Yao and the others. First, we need Marquis' trust. Tantai Yao didn't say anything else and immediately began to state her conditions. Chapter 749. Trust. This request made Wang Sheng smile bitterly. Trust was just a matter of a sentence? If it was really a matter of a sentence, it would be easy to handle. Unfortunately, Wang Sheng couldn't say nice words but always be on guard in his heart. Although I really want to tell you that I trust you completely. As Wang Sheng spoke, there was a bitter smile on his face. However, I don't wish to lie to you. Sister Tantai, trust is not something that can be established with just a few words. It is something that can only be slowly understood and acknowledged after a long period of interaction. If I were to say that I trust you too now, I would definitely be lying. If you really say that you trust us immediately, we will definitely tell you that we trust you immediately. Tantai Yao wasn't annoyed because Wang Sheng didn't give an immediate reply. Instead, she smiled and made a joke. Wang Sheng could see that the condition just now was actually a small test by Tantai Yao. Since Tantai Yao came to the Marquis residence, she had tested him many times. Wang Sheng didn't know where Tantai Yao's strong sense of insecurity came from. Perhaps it was because of the previous experience that made it difficult for her to trust a person without reservation. No matter what she did, she would make all kinds of probing actions to confirm if the other party's cooperation was sincere. Only Wang Sheng didn't care about this little test because of Sister Rosa. If it was someone like Tianzi, she would have been executed on the spot. I could try to trust you, but you must also take actions that are worthy of my trust. Wang Xing thought about it and gave Tantai Yao a solution. Actually, there's a very simple way to quickly close the relationship between you and them. Tantai Yao gave a serious suggestion. Wang Sheng was a little puzzled and looked at Tantai Yao with interest. Tantai Yao covered her mouth and smiled. Actually, none of them mind you pampering them. Believe me, they will use your favorite way to please you. Wouldn't it be faster to familiarize yourself with them this way? Listening to this idea, Wang Sheng shook his head directly. How much did Tantai Yao wish for him to harm her female disciples? Seeing that Wang Sheng was staring at her, Tantai Yao suddenly puffed out her chest, making her chest even more prominent. She asked with a smile, "Does the Marquis want me to serve you in bed? Sister Tantai, why don't you tell me what other conditions you have?" Wang Xing couldn't help but sigh and changed the topic without batting an eyelid. The second condition is actually very simple. Tantai Yao was still smiling. Her beautiful face, which was like a blooming flower, was filled with a moving expression. "Let's trust you. What I need to do?" Wang Sheng smiled bitterly in his heart, but he had to force himself to ask this question. "What do you think?" On Tantai Yao's face, there was another heartwarming expression. She asked a rhetorical question and rolled her eyes, but it was exceptionally attractive. Trust is mutual, and it's also the foundation of cooperation. Wang Sheng was puzzled, but he could only force himself to say, "It doesn't mean that I will immediately trust whoever I pamper, and it doesn't mean that she will immediately trust me. I believe that after experiencing the Triumph Palace incident, you must have a deeper understanding of this than me." The higher-ups of the Triumph Palace occupied those female disciples. Obviously, they indulged in them deeply and would pamper them every day. But this didn't prevent these female disciples from deliberately using all kinds of ideas to send those higher-ups to their deaths. Do you despise them for being broken flowers? Tantai Yao suddenly felt a little lost at this moment. Her eyes were a little red, and she empathized with the experience of those female disciples. She stared at Wang Sheng, waiting for Wang Sheng's answer. Wang Sheng knew that if he didn't answer this question well, everything he said before would be in vain. But Wang Sheng was a person with principles. He wouldn't change his original intention because of anything. "First of all, I won't discriminate against anyone." Wang Sheng expressed his point of view very clearly, especially when they are obviously victims. "I will only hate those who hurt them. I won't have any discrimination against them, and at the same time, I won't have any sympathy." Wang Sheng came from Earth. As a special warfare soldier, when faced with similar victims, Wang Sheng always felt that it was the government that didn't protect their own people. He would never discriminate against the victims. In addition, some concepts of modern Earth made Wang Sheng completely accept the fact that these women were no longer virgins. Wang Sheng was never paranoid about that layer of membrane. If you really like someone, it wouldn't change because of the existence of that membrane. Why? When she heard Wang Sheng say that he wouldn't discriminate, Tantai Yao could feel that Wang Sheng was serious. It came from the bottom of his heart, and it wouldn't be a lie. But when Wang Sheng said that he wouldn't sympathize with them, Tantai Yao couldn't help but feel a little dissatisfied and blurted out, "In fact, they deserve my admiration, not condescending sympathy." Wang Sheng stared at Tantai Yao's eyes and said very formally, even when they were in that kind of adversity, they didn't give up or give up. Instead, they tried all ways to change, counterattack, and save themselves. This is one of the reasons why I admire them. If it were me, I wouldn't do better than them. Wang Sheng was completely sincere. He really didn't feel that he was qualified to sympathize with those women who had been fighting silently. Even if the final result was that another group of stronger people gave them to him as gifts, they still discussed conditions with him through Tantai Yao even in this situation. It could be considered as a consistent struggle to change their situation. People who never lose their fighting spirit and are always working hard are worthy of admiration, not cheap sympathy. Wang Sheng expressed his point of view completely, and then waited for Tantai Yao's reaction. Since young, Tantai Yao went from an ordinary disciple of Triumph Palace to the Hall Master of the Hidden Hall, and then to the current situation. She had never experienced such a feeling that every word she said was right at the bottom of her heart. It was a kind of warmth of being understood, respected, and treated as a human. It made the 65-year-old immortal enchantress have an impulse to throw herself into Wang Sheng's arms and cry bitterly. What if they just want to thank you? Tantai Yao resisted that impulse and asked Wang Sheng, "Can I use the heaven and earth reversal method to thank you once?" Thinking about how Tantai Yao had been sparing no effort to make him sleep with the women and make them use the heaven and earth reversal method on him, Wang Sheng's mind suddenly flashed. The Yongchen mantra doesn't mean that one can have the strength of the legendary realm like you, Sister Tantai, right? Chapter 750. As soon as Wang Xing asked this question, Tantai Yao's expression immediately changed. She looked at Wang Sheng as if she was looking at a monster and did not hide the shock on her face. Seeing this expression, Wang Xing knew that he had guessed correctly. The Yongchen mantra was not that easy to cultivate to the legendary realm. Wang Sheng had read Gulong's novels on Earth and knew what was the wedding gown divine technique. In the spirit world, Wang Sheng had also experienced Song Yan's heaven and earth reversal technique and knew a lot of things in this aspect. The principle was actually very simple. It was nothing more than not being able to control it completely when cultivating for the first time. After using the heaven and earth reversal technique to transfer one's cultivation, one would cultivate again. Because one had the experience of cultivating once, one would be able to control one's spiritual chi cultivation technique perfectly, and the cultivation effect would be the strongest. Song Yin using the heaven and earth reversal technique might cause her to lose a part of her cultivation and waste a part of her time. But Wang Sheng believed that the Yongchen mantra was not that simple. It was very likely that one's entire cultivation would be destroyed and they would have to start all over again. Otherwise, there was no way to explain how a cultivation technique that had no attack power at the beginning could suddenly have a strong combat power. It did not make sense. It could only be said that there must be other reasons. This reason must be related to Tantai Yao sparing no effort to let Wang Sheng accept these girls and let them use the heaven and earth reversal technique on Wang Sheng. With this question, Wang Sheng was almost certain of his guess. Nothing can be hidden from Marquis. Although Wang Sheng did not directly say the root of the problem, Tantai Yao was already full of admiration for him. That's right, there must be a voluntary heaven and earth reversal technique. As for the specific level, it is up to me to figure out the secret technique. The secret technique would not be easily shown to others, but Tantai Yao had already given Wang Sheng a lot of face by saying this. This was the reason why Tantai Yao spared no effort to push her disciple onto Wang Sheng's bed and didn't hesitate to let Wang Sheng win the beauty's heart while gaining the effect of cultivation enhancement. In order to have a place for herself and her disciples, in order to not be treated as goods that others could take, throw, or give away as they pleased, and in order to not be abandoned after losing their novelty, they must have strength that others could not reach. However, this kind of cultivation was not something that could be achieved easily. At least in Tantai Yao's experience, it required a huge amount of resources. Putting everything else aside, the woman's foundation would be damaged after using the heaven and earth reversal technique. She would need countless great tonics to slowly recover in a few months or even half a year to a year. Gold coins, medicinal herbs, connections, and influence were all indispensable at this stage. This was not something an ordinary person could afford. There was only to talk about gold coins. Without gold coins, how are they going to buy supplements? Medicinal herbs could not be obtained for no reason. Without powerful connections and influence, they could not mobilize powerful alchemists to refine tonics for everyone. How could they recover in a short period of time? Without the protection of a powerful influence, how could a group of beautiful women with no fighting strength and damaged foundations live peacefully through this most difficult period of time? Calculating from Tantai Yao's own body, Just the consumption of repairing her foundation, if converted into gold coins, would exceed 1,000,000. This was a person. In the past, Victoria's Return Palace had hired a female disciple, and the most stunning one was only worth 1,000,000 gold coins. Their own value could not even compare to the gold coins consumed. Without the support of a rich and powerful financial backer, how could Tantai Yao's dream be realized? How could so many women have the strength to protect themselves? More than 600 women. Even if those female guards with low-grade source spirits were taken out, there would still be around 400 women who could cultivate the eternal spring heart cultivation technique. More than 400 people would have an average of 1,000,000 gold coins in the beginning, which was more than 400 million gold coins. If one counted the later stages of cultivation and the long period of living, without 500 million gold coins, one could not even think about it. There were many rich people in the source spirit world, and there were also many rich influences. There are not many people who could easily take out 500 million gold coins. It could be counted on one hand. Even if there was such a rich person who would take out 500 million gold coins for someone who had nothing to do with them. Why did Tantai Yao deliberately make Wang Sheng dote on those women? Wasn't it because after Wang Sheng and those women became husband and wife, as well as accepting the heaven and earth reversal technique from those women, they would willingly take out the gold coins? In the end, everything was because of the gold coins. Of course, it could also be said that everything was to increase their strength, but in the end, it all came down to the gold coins. But it had to be said that Tantai Yao's considerations were reasonable. Since these women wanted to cooperate with Wang Sheng, then the heaven and earth reversal technique could not be used on any other man. Otherwise, what would Wang Sheng think? Even if Wang Sheng was open-minded, what would Wang Sheng's subordinates, Wang Sheng's friends, especially Mayer, think? The only solution was to make these women become Wang Sheng's women. From then on, they would only be loyal to Wang Sheng in exchange for this opportunity. Of course, after experiencing the Triumph Palace, these women were no longer naive enough to look forward to the romance of a lifetime of love. As long as they were loyal to Wang Sheng would provide them with the most luxurious and peaceful life until they grew old. After Tantai Yao admitted the mystery of the Yongshun mantra, she told all her thoughts and considerations to Wang Sheng without reservation. After that, she sat opposite him quietly, waiting for Wang Sheng's decision. You guys are really daring. After listening, Wang Sheng was also surprised, and then he smiled bitterly. It involved a transaction of 500 million gold coins, but it was for more than 400 legendary realm experts. It was fine if Tantai Yao didn't think about it, but when she thought about it, she actually made such a big deal, which made Wang Sheng look at her in a new light. Wang Sheng didn't lack gold coins, or it should be said that Wang Sheng had ways to earn gold coins. For more than 400 legendary realm experts, was it worth it to spend 500 million gold coins? If he asked Mayer would definitely answer that it was worth it. That was more than 400 legendary realm experts. Now, the most powerful vassal state, the Kingdom of Song, could there be more than 50 legendary realm experts? Wang Sheng fell into deep thought, weighing whether such a cooperation would be of enough help to him. After all, they would become legendary realm experts in the future, but that would take 2 to 3 years or even longer. Was such a deal worth it? Chapter 751. Sister Tantai, I'll think about it. Wang Sheng said to Tantai Yao, please tell the other sisters what I mean. Tantai Yao also knew that she couldn't get Wang Sheng's feedback immediately. She nodded with slight disappointment. Don't worry. You're the only person I've seen in all these years who doesn't sympathize with us but still makes us feel happy. Even if we don't have any other relationship, we can't find another person who can make us feel at ease. I'll have to trouble Sister Tantai to study it carefully. Is there any other way besides heaven and earth reversal? Wang Sheng enjoyed it very much, but he still warned her thoughtfully, it's still the same thing. The path of cultivation leads to the same destination. There might be other ways. I also like beautiful women, but I don't want a clean, cooperative relationship to become a physical relationship. If I really agree to do that, then what's the difference between me and those people from Triumph Palace? Since Wang Sheng had put it this way, Tantai Yao could only let out a long sigh and had nothing to say. Just as Wang Sheng said, if Wang Sheng really coveted the effects of their cultivation and coveted their bodies, then what difference would there be between Wang Sheng and those higher-ups from Triumph Palace? For those female disciples, it was nothing more than coming out of tiger's den and then entering a wolf's den. I'll find a more suitable way for everyone to cooperate. Wang Sheng saw Tantai Yao's somewhat disappointed look and thought of those pitiful women's encounters. His heart softened a little. Don't worry, I'll definitely find a way. It's just a mere 500 million gold coins. Trust me, a mere 500 million gold coins? If it was someone else who dared to say this in front of Tantai Yao would definitely slap them until they couldn't tell north from south. But this was said by Wang Sheng in front of her, so it was a different matter. Wang Sheng's greatest reputation in the world, apart from being the master of the land of thousand despair, was his reputation as the boy of wealth. Any business related to Wang Sheng, if he couldn't earn a few 100 million gold coins a year, he would be embarrassed to go out and greet others. The women needed more than 500 million gold coins in a few years. For Wang Sheng, it was just a matter of finding another business that could earn a few 100 million gold coins a year. It was really too simple. Hearing Wang Sheng's words, Tantai Yao was no longer worried. She immediately jumped happily and shouted at Wang Sheng, "I'll tell them the good news immediately." She rushed out the door and felt a little embarrassed. She turned back and said to Wang Sheng, "I'll find another way." Wait. She was already 65 years old, yet she still behaved like a child. Wang Sheng looked at Tantai Yao's actions and admired her youthful mentality. However, perhaps it was because of this that she had such a childlike appearance. Mayor and Sister Rose had already gone to the Wang Manor to settle the paperwork for the release of the brides. Tantai Yao was also running off to tell them the good news. Wang Sheng was the only one left in the Marquis Manor. Wang Sheng didn't think about finding a way to deal with it immediately. It was better to think about it while cultivating. After practicing with the equipment and swimming for a while, Wang Sheng began to cultivate the Tao scripture, keeping calm heart cultivation method. These days, the effect of this heart cultivation method had slowly begun to show. Wang Sheng had already turned the cultivation route into a kind of memory instinct. There was almost no need for Wang Sheng to deliberately control it. The speed of cultivation made Wang Sheng a little dumbfounded. It was originally a combination of two cultivation methods. Wang Sheng's acupoints far exceeded the needs of any one of them. This also led to the accumulation and purification of the spiritual qi. It was almost twice as fast as when he was in the Sui and I transformation. He believed that as his source spirit underwent more changes, Wang Sheng's cultivation speed would also become faster and faster. Compared to this kind of orthodox cultivation method, Wang Sheng actually didn't like to sacrifice others for his own heaven and earth reversal method. When Song Yin had used it on Wang Sheng actually didn't know about it. There was nothing he could do about it unknowingly. But now, there were more than 400 women using this method on him. Wang Sheng couldn't accept it from his own heart. Even if there were so many women using the heaven and earth reversal method for their cultivation, Wang Sheng still couldn't accept it in his own heart. Wang Sheng definitely didn't approve of using his body to exchange for everything in the future. If Wang Sheng nodded, then what was Wang Sheng? Keeping more than 400 lovers? Or paying a high price for more than 400 times? Or being treated as a duck by more than 400 women? Wang Sheng admired those women who never stopped fighting. No matter what the result was, at least they were fighting hard. Therefore, Wang Sheng didn't want to use this kind of wretched method to help them. This wasn't the result that Wang Sheng wanted, and he believed that it wasn't the result that they wanted either. The gold coins were easy, the business was easy. The only problem was whether Elder Sister Tanai could find a way to replace the heaven and earth reversal method. Anyway, the goal was to abolish part or all of his cultivation. Wang Sheng believed that there must be a replacement method. Thinking of this, Wang Sheng's mood suddenly became cheerful. He didn't mind cooperating with those women on another business, so that both sides could feel at ease. Those women used their labor in exchange for their remuneration to achieve the same goal, so that Wang Sheng wouldn't have to bear the psychological burden. Counting his own matters, building the Grand Theater for Master Yu and the others to perform was one. Cooperating with the Imperial Treasure House to brew wine was another. Settling these women down and entering the core of the ground of Thousand Despair to see the Sure family and Gone family's progress in excavating the peerless treasures. In total, there were these 4 matters. Of course, he couldn't forget to cultivate at any time. Now that Wang Sheng had grasped the scripture of Tao scriptures, keeping calm heart cultivation method, Wang Sheng could naturally consider the next change of his source spirit. There weren't many changes left. Swan and I, Chao Feng, Yazi Baji, Jiao Tu, each had their own characteristics, but Wang Sheng still felt that the next change was Jiao Tu's day. There was no other reason. Jiao Tu's characteristic was that it liked water, and if Wang Sheng wanted to enter the core of the ground of Thousand Despair, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to avoid the huge lake formed by the melting of the world of ice and snow. At that time, Jiao Tu's characteristic of liking water would help Wang Sheng a lot. Although Qi Wen also liked water, the two were definitely different. At least for Wang Sheng, it would definitely be helpful. Since it was related to water, Wang Sheng immediately thought of the cooperation with the Imperial Treasure House. Without saying anything further, he immediately ordered Steward Wang to inform Marquis Lu Wenho to look for wine, yeast, and all kinds of wine brewing ingredients, and not forget to collect a portion of water from all over the world. This request was simply something that could be easily done, and it was definitely related to wine brewing. He believed that Marquis Lu Wenho would definitely give Wang Sheng a good deal. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.